Good evening, everyone. We are back. I am Chris, joined once again with Dale for the final Star Wars movie that we're going to be talking about, at least. Episode 7, 8, and 9 are playing next week sometime, I think.
We ain't going.
Yeah.
They do that? Is that a thing?
We are finishing George Lucas's Star Wars saga with Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, which we got back from maybe 40 minutes ago. The roads were all closed. Everything was completely horrendous, but we somehow made it back. We did unfortunately miss like the first 5 minutes of the movie. We've had like really bad like rain here today, and roads were like crazy. So we did unfortunately miss the first 5 minutes, but it's not like we haven't seen this film before. So thankfully we could jump right in, and we pretty much picked it up when 3PO and R2 are talking to Jabba the Hutt when they first get there. So Anon says, have you guys watched Berserk 97? I have not watched Berserk 97.
Do you know what I always find weird about the word berserk? That it basically means crazy, doesn't it?
Yeah, like berserker, I guess, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think it's like the next level of crazy. I always find it a fascinating word. I don't know why. It's not my favourite word. I like the word penultimate.
Penultimate's a very good word.
Elated.
You know what also isn't your favorite thing is Return of the Jedi. I think this is going to be the most interesting Star Wars movie I think that we've talked about out of all the 6 that we've done, because this is my personal favorite. I'll acknowledge it's not the best. I still think that goes to, well, we talked about it last week, Empire Strikes Back. This is my favorite though. But I don't know. Do you hate this movie?
No, I don't.
Or is
I don't.
Just
I don't
lukewarm?
hate it. I don't hate it at all. It is good. It's better than Episode 1. But it's quite on par as well for me. Like,
oh wow, okay,
yeah, like it is better. Like I do prefer it and I do enjoy it more, but I enjoy it on a similar level, because the thing about Episode 1 as well is I don't hate it as much as everyone else. I think it's enjoyable. I think it's fun. Like this, I think it's fun, but I do think it's also more enjoyable and a better movie as well. But that being said, I think there's a lot of things with the Ewoks that are just. I know the Ewoks get a lot of hate, a lot of stick. That's funny. Anyway, but yeah, they get a lot of crap because, and probably for similar reasons. I just find a lot of it boring. I find a lot of it kind of, and it's weird because I've always been a firm believer that not everything needs a reason. And realistically, they could have been, they could have looked that way. They could have been big monsters. They could have been anything. Like that. It doesn't need a reason. It's just because it's kind of funny, the cute little animals. That's all it was. But all they ended up being was just kind of like, cool, awesome, there's a shield, yeah, cool. And I just never loved them. I just thought it was kind of okay. And then whenever it went back to Darth Vader, I thought this is really cool. And I felt like every time it went away, it was taken away from what I wanted to see. Not because I necessarily hated the Ewoks or anything, but just I thought they were okay. And it took away, every time it shot back to me, it felt like it was taking something away from me. And that's probably why I dislike it more than not more than most, but more than maybe I should, in a way, because that's the thing, isn't it? Like because I really do like the the final confrontation, and it feels like they take it away every now and then. I'm like, I was enjoying that,
Yeah, no, I totally get that. Well, you mentioned about the Ewoks. I think the original concept was to have it be on Kashyyyk, and it was all going to be Wookiees, which I think would have tied it in a bit better. I think that would have been, I could buy an army of Wookiees taking down the Emperor's best troops. More than Ewoks. I think with the Ewoks, it's an interesting dichotomy. I think if you were a certain age when you first watch Return of the Jedi, I think that entirely dictates whether you'll love or hate the Ewoks.
They were similar to like Jar Jar Binks and stuff, like in the sense of that whole family friendly little bit comic appeal, kind of like they had that little bit in there, which I think is great. It's why stories include like why were goblins invented and stuff like that, because it's kind of, it's cool. Not everything needs to be a big scary thing. So yeah, they do have that. I think that the Empire getting taken down by little small creatures as well, I think that probably says more as well. But yeah, I think it would have been probably a more enjoyable movie, especially for myself. Keep getting taken away from that thing that I like watching. If it was the Wookiees.
Yeah, I mean, the Ewoks, as you said, pretty much exactly the same function of the Gungans. They were there for comic relief, for the younger audience, in there for merchandise, which was probably a big thing with the Ewoks as well. And of course, George Lucas went on to make
because Warwick Davis wouldn't fit in a Wookiee suit.
Yeah. You had the 2 Ewok movies, which actually I've never watched. Was it The Caravan of Courage and something else? I've never actually watched those Ewok movies, so maybe that could be a future live stream for another time. But I never had a problem with them, and I think it was because, well, I would have watched these original 3 right after watching Phantom Menace, probably. So I would have been about 6 or 7 years old by that point. So yeah, I always loved them. I thought they were cute. I thought they were fun. I thought they were kind of badass as well. And I do kind of buy that the Ewoks might have the upper hand because people compare it to like Vietnam, but it's their territory. They know those forests better than anyone. So
bit Trojan horse like, aren't they? In
yeah,
the sense of you don't expect it. And I do think that's good imagery. I think that works well. I just think because of the movie it was and the movie I loved, it kept taking it away. It kept going back to this comic relief stuff that I was like, yeah, but I like the action. Cool. If you had Wookiees tearing people's arms off doing their thing that they do, cool. It would be more action packed. Whereas I felt like there was less action than I wanted.
We've got a few comments pouring in now. Anon says teddy bears, goofy fourth wall breaking half-foots. I wouldn't go that far. I think they're pretty cool. They are pretty goofy, though. I'll agree with you there.
I do like the scene with Wicket and Leia, though. I do like
the
that.
Introduction scene.
Yeah, I do think that's quite heartfelt. I think it's quite nice.
What about the
it's
creepy blinking Ewoks now? Because this was unsurprisingly the 2011 Blu-ray version.
Well, it took inspiration from Furbies, didn't it? Probably. I'm guessing.
Maybe, yeah.
When the Furbies did their weird blink and they'd look at you.
Yeah, it's just really weird because you can tell the whole eye has now been CGI'd for the blink. And it just looks really uncanny and kind of terrifying now. It makes them really unsettling to me. HLB says, but remember, the Star Wars movies are for kids and the Ewoks are legendary. Exactly. Do you know the one thing that I always thought was a missed opportunity with this movie? You know how Wicket is like the main Ewok, is the first one that we get introduced to and he helps out the group. It's not him on the speeder bike that distracts the scout troopers. Wouldn't have that made more sense for Wicket to have done that, to be like the main one in the group?
Yes and no, but this would tie back to I'm still firm believer anything can happen in the sense of it didn't have to be, and does it? Like realistically, like, and I think sometimes those kind of, I get why in movies things happen. There's everything happens for a reason and all that sort of stuff because it ties in and it's quite nice. You're like, okay, and it's satisfactory. But no, I don't think it's a missed opportunity, I guess, but I don't think it's needed. It's not like he's a significant, thing, I guess.
I don't think he does much during the fight, does he? You see him, and he repeats this with the Gungans as well, where he like swings like the bowlers around and smacks himself in the face. I don't remember him actually doing much else during the fight. Do I forget something?
He's just there, and he's just a little teddy bear.
Yeah,
so it's what he does, and this is what I mean. It takes away from the and I'm not knocking Ewoks. I don't think there's things they could have done to be better. I don't think there's things they necessarily did bad. I just think it's very like every time, like if we had a little Ewok movie or something, like cool, Ewoks are cool. There's nothing wrong with them, but every time it was this stuff happening that I really liked, and it was just, that was like, can we go back? Oh, cool! For fuck's sake, stop cutting off. It's like it's kind of almost like
it's like Phantom Menace, Duel of the Fates is going on, and it keeps cutting back to the Gungans.
Yeah, fucking hell. It's kind of like that. But
it's poetry.
Yeah, and it's also kind of like, when you're a kid and you're watching a cartoon and you're like, oh, next episode next week, and you're oh, cool, awesome, and then it goes on, and you're just like, fucking get to next week. It's kind of like that, and yeah, so yeah.
I totally get that. Travis says, how's it going, guys? My favorite Star Wars movie. Thank you. A man of culture right there. Favorite Star Wars movie.
Episode 4 is better. Episode 5 is better.
I wouldn't argue against that. Here's the thing. I wouldn't argue against that. I will acknowledge that this isn't the best, but it is my favorite. I think it works, and I've mentioned this in one of the other streams. I think one of the reasons I like it so much, I guess kind of like A New Hope in a way, you can just watch it. It feels like it has a beginning, middle, and definitive end.
You say that to me because you, obviously right at the beginning with with Yoda and everything, it feels very like it's a 5 and 6 are like a 2-part movie in a way. And there's the whole like it harkens back to a lot of stuff like he calls Darth Vader father. There's all sort of like, well, we set this up because you already know it, like, you know what I mean? So I see it as like a 2-part thing.
That's fair. I think because what I love about the opening is, and I guess George Lucas took inspiration for this when he did the opening of Episode 3 as well, because I know I mentioned this during Revenge of the Sith. The beginning of that movie and this almost feel like a James Bond opener. It opens with like that cold open with like that little action scene, which gets us to it, like a little rescue mission, and then we can get on with the rest of the film. Unfortunately, with this film, I do think it slumps. I still really enjoy it. Obviously, it is my favorite Star Wars movie, but I do think there is a distinct slump in the second act right after they rescue Han. Actually, probably after the Yoda scene, because I think that's really good. I like how that's handled. Yeah, and then we're kind of chilling with the Ewoks for a little bit, and we get a cool speeder bike chase, but we're still chilling with
those
the
speeder
Ewoks.
bikes are cool. I do like the design of those.
Yeah, I can't help but think the speeder bikes are a horribly impractical vehicle to use in this terrain because they travel at like fucking 300 miles an hour through like weaving trees. But I will say, like, the effects of this, and I've always believed this, there are some really ropey effects in this movie, mostly the kind of rear projection stuff. A scene that jumps out to me is where you've got Han and Luke and Chewie on the little skiff next to the sail barge, and like the desert's passing behind them, and it just looks really, really obvious green screen. I know this was 1983, but I even feel by Star Wars's previous standards, it's a little bit ropey. You can almost see like the jagged outline of where the roto is.
When I was watching today, I always, ever since Family Guy, you know, when they got, that piece of music where it's with the bomb. Yeah, I always, every time I'm there, just seeing them do that over and over again. That's all I can see.
Yeah, I know. I had that.
It's
too.
The same with the Sarlacc. Like, I see Meg's face.
Yeah,
I can't unsee it.
And the bit where he's like, Luke, he's like, "Yep, I'm still here." Luke, it's like, "Yep, I haven't gone anywhere. I'm right here."
I know. It's to be fair, here's one thing. So, Palpatine being the Emperor, right?
Yep.
What did you first think of Palpatine in Episode 1 when you first saw him?
In Episode 1?
Yeah, Episode 1. When you felt like, obviously you'd seen him in 4 to 6, but what I mean is in Episode 1 when you saw him, what was the first thought?
As in, did I know that he was going to go on to be the Emperor?
Yeah. How long did it take?
The end of the movie, because my folks spoiled it for me. They said, "Oh, he grows up to be like the Emperor."
Oh, okay.
In the old ones, I was like, "I haven't seen the old ones yet," and they're like, "Oh, well, when you watch the old ones, he grows up to be the Emperor." I'm like, "Thanks."
When was it? Because I thought that would, like, because I think the first one I must watch was, I can't remember exactly the first one I watched, but I think it was 1, and then so I kind of just like, I always knew, but then whenever I watched 3. I've always sat there thinking, was this supposed to be like a reveal thing? I don't know. How was it supposed to be handled? Because I always just kind of like put 2 and 2 together. It was very like the way he's talked, his mannerisms. But was it supposed to be a big reveal in 3?
Well, you get the foreshadowing, don't you? At the very end, it's like, but who was destroyed, the master or the apprentice? And the camera pans over to Palpatine at the very end. And also the geniosity of John Williams is the victory celebration music at the end of Phantom Menace, where Boss Nass holds the ball up and it plays that very triumphant music. It's the Emperor's theme in a major key, which I fucking love. And I didn't know that for years. And then I watched the video on it. I'm like, that's amazing.
Yeah, but I just wonder, was it supposed to be some big reveal or something? Because to me, it wasn't. It was just a kind of, I gathered. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. Was it supposed to be?
I'm not sure.
I don't know.
So I mentioned like the ropey effects in those, like a couple of instances in the film, but the whole ending, the entire space battle, to me, Star Wars has never looked this good in terms of the space battles. I think Rogue One came very close. To me, out of sort of like the modern era of like Disney Star Wars, Rogue One came the close to the space battles from the original trilogy, where everything was like CGI models, but they actually did kind of look like real practical models at the same time as well. But to me, this is the best space action I've ever seen in anything. Like the whole, Rebel fleet against the TIE fighters and flying into the second Death Star. It looks fucking outstanding. So absolutely hats off to ILM. And the fact of the matter, like, this came out in 1983, and seeing it on a big screen was absolutely just, it was an absolute pleasure. I have seen this on a big screen before, not at the cinema, but I did see it in concert. So I have seen it on a bigger screen, but this was just better with all the lights down, and just, we were kind of fairly close to the front, so you could really take in the scale and just the beauty of some of the model work on the Death Star and whatnot.
Whose dickhead idea was it to call it the Death Star 2? Like, come on, you got to be a bit more inventive than that.
Well, what I was going to mention is, I keep your comments coming in, guys. I will get to them. I promise. I'm seeing them all come in. The concept of another Death Star. I think the original outline for this was going to be that there were going to be 2 Death Stars in the film that they had to take out. But what do you think about it? I guess it is kind of a rehash, really, in many ways, isn't it, from A New Hope? What do you think about, we get to our 3rd movie, oh, it's another Death Star?
Well, this is the thing. So, again, just calling it a Death Star 2, you could have done something different, whatever. But how many times do you like watch something and someone's come up with a plan to do something? It doesn't work, right? So then they come up with another plan. And you've sat there and been like, why don't you do the same thing again? Because that's not going to happen again, is it? You know, like, have you ever, like, you know, or you'll watch something, it could be literally something like a really simple plan that just something silly goes wrong, like someone literally fell over while they're doing it, so it didn't come to fruition. It's like, just do the same thing again. This time you're not going to fall over and everything will be fine. And you sit there just thinking, I don't understand what possessed you to go up a completely different idea because of that. So the Death Star 2 is kind of like a whole, like, well, we'll just build another one, it'll be fine.
But it won't be, because you had the small thermal exhaust port in the original.
Yeah.
Now you can fit the entire fucking Millennium Falcon down the middle and shoot the reactor in the middle. So it's even easier to like take down.
Yeah, but that's why they had the shields, isn't it?
I feel like this one wasn't thought through as much. They fucking built it quickly though. I know that, because
that's why I wasn't thought through.
Did someone mention like this was being built around the same time as Death Star 1 or something?
Who the fuck called it a Death Star? Why? Like, why? What dickhead decided I'm going to call it a Death Star and it's going to be our fucking, basically our symbol of the Empire? You know what I mean? That's like fucking whatever is, I don't know who's our president, prime minister person now, whatever. Like, but that's like him building like his, I don't know, his own house kind of thing. That's not down the street. He builds like another one and he calls it like the murder yard, and everyone thinks like, oh, it's a place of peace. It's like, it's fucking not though, is it? You call it the murder yard. Like, it's just weird. I don't know. Like,
yeah, it is.
Why?
It is a bit of a stretch.
The Emperor have a lawyer that sits there and goes,
maybe it was one of those purple guys. You know, that like the two purple guys he goes off to the side to talk to.
I think it might be the one of the red guards.
I like one of the lawyers.
I like the red guards.
Yeah,
those are. I think they're just some of my favorites. I think their design is wicked. I think their whole and they're always in every game. They're really hard to defeat. Fucking annoying.
And then Ryan Johnson came along and was like, I'm going to do red guards as well.
Oh,
Praetorian
What
guards.
did they look like? Oh, they were, We don't
with
talk about
the magical disappearing knife, because they wrote themselves into a corner and could have easily have killed Rey. So he has two knives in one shot, and then his arm moves behind her and disappears, and he only has one knife. It's so shit. It's so fucking wank. But the whole attack on the Death Star 2, I don't know if it was a case of that these three films were just...
Hold on, just want to say something. It said Death Star because the planet destroying laser, right? Yeah, but that's not the point, right? You don't build it to go, we're going to destroy planets, but we rule the galaxy.
He means to like the general public.
Yeah,
you know,
why would
this...
you know, like they're not going to do that and go, that's fine. It's just like, oh yeah, what happens if you go out of place? I'll just kill us. It's fine.
Like,
don't worry about it.
Palpatine does a call. Is like, great nations of the earth, I'm using taxpayers' money to build something I like to call the Death Star.
And then people go, yeah, like that's not going to happen. Like that's the biggest plot hole in the whole of Star Wars for me. But anyway,
yeah, what I was saying about the Death Star, the second Death Star, and why I don't really have a problem with it is a factor could be that these three films were just already out, and it was kind of, there you go, these are the films. There was no sort of looking forward to the next one or having to wait, Christ, 3 years since Empire Strikes Back to this one. So I can imagine maybe for viewers watching this actually at the time and having to wait that long to be presented with another Death Star might feel a little bit underwhelming. To me, it wasn't, and I feel like the two Death Star scenes, the attack on the first Death Star in A New Hope and the attack on this one in this film, are very visually different. I like the trench run of the original and the very sort of like tight claustrophobic. Yeah, so do I overall. But this one's dynamic and they're weaving in between. I love the design of it as well. It's exciting. I like that Wedge has a lot more to do as well. And even to this day, I've seen this film hundreds of times, but the bit where the flames are chasing the Falcon and Lando's piloting it, it's like, oh my God, are they going to make it out? And he just blasts out at the last minute.
Don't the flames chase him out of the Cave Wonders?
Yes. Yeah.
See, that's where that's
because Lando was originally meant to die in this.
He doesn't do a lot in this, does he? I mean, he does. He does do things, but he's not there loads. But this is again why I see 5 and 6 as a two-part thing, because he doesn't need a load of stuff. He's already done his entrance. Because
they kind of set it up as well a little bit. There's the bit where Han kind of has a moment looking at the Falcon and Leia goes, "You all right?" And he goes, "Yeah, I just have a feeling I'm never going to see her again." And that was the setup, because Lando was going to die. They felt that you can't have Star Wars. They felt like the victory at the end had to come with somewhat of a sacrifice. But I don't know. I think it was good just having all of them make it out, having good triumph over evil. Because I think it would have been really weird. It's like, yeah, we won, but also we're also sad at the end of this saga because Lando died. But oh well, let's party with the Ewoks. I don't think it would have worked, so I'm glad they kept it as it is. One thing I wanted to bring up to you, which I do think is a little bit of a missed opportunity. I won't say it's a plot hole, it's just a weird inconsistency. So Han's been frozen in carbonite, and he doesn't know anything that's happened in that interim period, right? That's when he wakes up and he's like a Jedi Knight. He's, you know, everyone. I fall asleep for a few moments, and everyone gets delusions of grandeur. But he's instantly okay with Lando. Like, he's best pals with Lando. The last thing he remembers is Lando betraying them all to the Empire and him getting frozen in carbonite. He hasn't had that whole year where they've become pally and he's realized that Lando's now helping them out. That's a little bit weird to me. There should have been a
little bit at each other.
There should have been a conversation, because that was huge. He ratted them out to the Empire.
Yeah, but yeah.
I don't know. I feel like there needed to at least be a conversation.
Really that, to be fair, but yeah, it's a good point.
I was trying to watch this with the rationale that when Han gets thrown in the jail cell with Chewie, and Chewie like gives him a hug, that's a sweet moment. I like that, and he's like smoothing his hair back, and he's like, "I'm all right, pal." I thought maybe Chewie relays to Han everything that's happened, and he goes, "Oh, by the way, Lando's actually cool now." But I still think there needed to be a moment where the two characters reference that and have a little moment about that.
I really hate that the Wookiees are in episode 3.
Oh yeah. Why? Well, it's just yeah.
It was another tie-in of just like, because originally it was going to have little Han Solo there. Why? It's just another like. Ugh.
It's kind of what HLB says. It makes Chewbacca more special. The more Wookiees there are, the more regular he becomes.
Well, this is the thing. Yeah, it does. But like, if you had because obviously they're going to have. He's not going to be the only one. But if you had them instead of the Ewoks, it still would have been like, and then he could go back and he would lead them. He would do or something like that. I just, when I said that in my head, I just thought of Jar Jar Binks going back to the Gungans. So there's always going to be similarities, but I think, you know, not having, because in episode 3 he was just there as just Chewbacca. He wasn't special, like he said. But having him in 6, like if they had done that, it probably would have been a little bit better, I think.
Yeah. Travis says the saga begins with Qui-Gon taking a chance on Jar Jar, which wins them the battle, and ends with Luke taking a chance on the Ewoks. I like the full circle message that when you take the chance on the ones no one else would, those are the people who will never let you down. Luke embodying not just a Jedi, but the best kind of Jedi. That's a really interesting way to look at it.
When did that come out then?
When
Take a chance on me. When that
Take a chance on me.
It's
a great song. Yeah, and you know, I think George Lucas did intentionally write it that way, didn't he? That the famous quotes like poetry, it rhymes. The ending of Phantom Menace very much echoes the ending of Return of the Jedi, the funeral pyre scene with Qui-Gon and Anakin and whatnot.
I like that. That's one thing I really like, because it showed he's still a Jedi. Like, you know, I really like that. But then until episode 1, you didn't know that was a Jedi funeral. You know, we didn't know that as a Jedi's funeral, so you do need the prequels to show that. But I still like to imagine 4, 5, and 6 is just the prequels don't count in a big way, but there is a there is a story to be told from 1 to 6, but there's also a story told to 4 to 6, and then 1, 2, and 3 come into it. It's a little bit of a different thing.
Yeah,
I still like to see it like that, but the thing that you need is to know that's a Jedi funeral, because I do like that, the fact that he was burnt the same way. So that's one thing watching 1 to 6, like in that order, gives you.
Yeah,
which I think is nice.
One thing that I never really connected, and I do kind of view the original trilogy as its own thing, and the prequels are kind of tangentially linked a little bit, but there's a lot of continuity errors which we'll talk about, especially from this movie relating back to the prequels.
Do you know what I think was an opportunity missed though? So, you know, Ben Kenobi, when he's there as a Force ghost, and let's pretend it's Sebastian Shaw, because that's who's meant to be there. And then they're watching, obviously, Darth Vader's funeral, he's burning. The missed opportunities for him to not to like grab him and just be like, takes me back, really, doesn't it? Yeah. When he's watching him on fire. Like, I really feel like they should have done that.
I hate you. That was really funny, yeah. We got that in special edition. They'll add that in. Yeah. But one thing with connecting this with the prequels that I never bought is that I can never sort of hear Hayden Christensen as Vader. Like, I can't, when you hear how Vader talks and how he carries himself, I can't picture Hayden Christensen, Anakin saying those lines in that way. The two feel very, very separate. And some could argue maybe that's the point. You know, Anakin is his own person and he becomes Darth Vader. But it's a totally different personality between those two characters for me.
I was the same. Like tonight, I was looking at Sebastian Shaw, and I was imagining him, like a young him as Anakin, and I couldn't fully. No, I couldn't not see that. But then him as a young Anakin, to then him in the suit acting like that was just, I don't know. It was just, yeah, I don't know. But I get what you mean. But yeah, the Sebastian Shaw actual like version in the suit being evil, because he was quite good. He's got quite a nice like caring face.
He was very old though. I think he was mid-70s when he was cast. So yeah, that's another thing. Like the ages don't, well, that's across the board. The ages don't add up. Uncle Owen, Aunt Beru, Obi-Wan Kenobi, pretty much everyone unanimously, the ages don't match when they made the prequels because they aged them down too much. But also, what was I going to say? The fact that Sebastian Shaw is British, and quite obviously British when you hear him talk. And then you have Hayden Christensen, who's Canadian, and like the accents don't match up. So it's all fucked. I really wish, this is going to sound like a really weird thing to say, I wish we could have seen the prequels that were established from the original trilogy. The fact of like that Padme or Luke's mom would have still been alive and raised Leia for a little portion of her life. Because when you watch it, it is...
That's the one thing I don't agree with.
It can't link back to it.
That's the one thing I don't agree with. I think she should have died in childbirth. And the whole, like, I remember she was really sad. Like I've always said, if you try too hard to remember something, you'll create false memories in your head. I'm still a firm believer of that. You'll go, oh, I try to remember this. Oh, yeah, I remember this happened. Have you ever remembered something and it's really not how you remember it? It's because, sometimes like if you try really hard as well, like it creates that in your head. And I think that's the same thing. Like she's like, oh, I can't remember my mom. It's
as like, a newborn, literally popped out the womb, still covered in placenta.
That's the thing. She doesn't remember her. She doesn't remember her. She just tries back thinking, I know I had a mom. I'm trying to remember her. And that's why.
You retcon it. You're coping. No, it doesn't check out at all.
That's one thing I agree with. That's one thing.
No, because she's like, she died when I was very young.
Yeah.
That ain't as soon as you pop out the womb.
Yeah, but
and then Luke says,
she doesn't remember properly.
I have no memory of my mother. I never knew her.
Yeah.
Implying that Leia did know the mom because she was alive for a portion of her life.
No, because she just, it doesn't, it works because she's just like, I think I do, but it's like, no, you fucking don't.
No, it doesn't come across that way at all.
It does to me.
No, it's fucked. It's totally fucked. I think Padme needed to be alive at the end, raising Leia on Alderaan if you wanted to connect it with Bail and everything, that's fine. Luke gets raised by his aunt and uncle on Tatooine, and Leia gets raised by her mum for at least a few short years.
But why would she get raised by her mum? Why would Luke not get raised by his mum? I know they want
because they got to be separated that the Empire won't sense their presence.
But then if that was you, wouldn't you just be like, "Oh, thanks, mum, you took her instead"?
No, because they had to do it for the greater good. You had to separate them because two together is too powerful in the Force.
I get that, but
it'd be like a magnet.
At the same time, you'd still feel like, but you still chose her over me. It just makes her look like a shit mum, doesn't it? That's all I'm saying.
Well,
no.
She loses the will to live, even though she's just had 2 kids, so she was a shit mum from the beginning, as far as I'm concerned. She's like, she's lost the will to live. I'm like, you literally have 2 children now.
That would make me lose the will to live. I'm not being funny.
Well, yeah, me too. Anon says, pickled Jar Jar in a jar or Qui-Gon Jinn with gin.
I don't really like gin as much as I like pickled stuff.
See, I don't like either. I detest pickles, but gin gives me really bad stomach ache. So
gin's all right. I do like gin, but pickled, I like pickled stuff. Pickled eggs, great. Pickled, what else do you have? Pickled onions. Pickled onions, pickles. Pickles. Pickles are great. Pickle anything, it's nice.
I'm gonna go with Qui-Gon Jinn with gin.
And also, if you were to lose like your toe or something and you pickle it, it would preserve it.
Yeah.
So pickling is good. So pickled.
You know, when you say the word like a word so many times that the very letters,
I like the word pickle.
They start swirling around your head like the unknown from Pokemon.
I like the word pickle. It's a nice word.
Travis says, I think episode 4 is the best, but Return of the Jedi is my favorite.
I think episode 4 is the best, and episode 4 is my favorite.
The movie opens with the characters putting their story on hold to make sure they get Han back, which opens the movie, making you like everyone a lot more. Yeah, no, I like that. They all took a year to try and get him back.
It's the one you do see Luke's lightsaber, which is good.
Well, there was the deleted scene originally, wasn't it? Which was going to be Luke sending out 3PO and R2-D2 to go to Jabba's palace, and you see him like putting the final touches on his lightsaber and igniting it. I'm glad it is a cool scene. I'm glad that I have seen that scene, but I think that the intro shot to Luke in this is so fucking cool.
In this, it's kind of like he's already established himself.
Yeah.
By doing this, and with doing that, it's like, oh right, we're on the point where it's established. Like, we don't want that. We just, it's like the whole. You don't start episode 4 during the construction of Death Star. It's like it's already done. It's already this. You want to start in something.
But that shot where the doors rise up and it's just a silhouette, and you got like the light, the overexposed light coming in, and also like the ambiguity. And I think, well, from the original title was meant to be Revenge of the Jedi. The fact that Luke is he opens with force choking the 2 Gamorrean guards. That's usually a dark side move.
Yeah,
he's all dressed in black and he looks pretty intense.
Because I think, didn't George Lucas look back on it and say that's not really Jedi though to do that?
Well, yeah, but I think it's effective because the whole point is Luke is being tempted towards the dark side in this film, and maybe he could turn towards the dark side. There's a lot of temptation pulling him there. There's the beautiful symbolism at the end, which is one of my favorite scenes in all of Star Wars, where he cuts Vader's hand off and he looks down at his own and sees that he's essentially becoming himself. This is something that's really embarrassing because I must have been a really, really stupid child, but at least I was kind of picking up on what was going on. So I was very young when I watched this film. As I said, I would have been about 6 years old. I was probably an idiot 6-year-old. When I watched this scene and he cuts Vader's hand off and then he looks at his own and looks back and the hand's gone, I always thought it was a literal thing that happened. I thought he cut Vader's hand off and Vader's hand had somehow magically attached itself to Luke, and he was like becoming him in an actual sense. Many years later, or probably not many years later, I thought,
it's never run through my head.
Yeah, so even at a young age, I was picking up the connection that George Lucas was trying to get over, and I was picking up that, oh God, he thinks he's becoming Vader, but I thought it was in a literal sense, like parts of Vader's body were like suddenly magically grafting to Luke. Thankfully, I picked up on the subtleties of the subtext after that and didn't think it was as literal, but yeah. I also thought that Luke was the one that always killed Vader. Because when he takes his hand off,
that I can see.
Yeah, Vader goes to ground and his breathing's very labored and he's kind of putting his hand out like, whoa, no more, like give me a breather. And then it always felt like when he absorbs the lightning from Palpatine when he throws him over, that was just a kind of formality. I thought Vader was already on the way out. I thought all the tubes in his body were connected. And when the hand got cut off, that severed a connection.
That. Well, it's like I thought that from when I was a lot younger. And then I started to notice, I don't know, maybe it was like the third watch, I don't know, where he's got the electricity around him still. And I thought, oh, he's been electrocuted. So I thought maybe it's that. But then that just makes me think to maybe George Lucas couldn't make up his mind. We'll just do both of them. Because I do think that was it as well. It's something I might have done possibly, like the whole like, oh, it's done that, but then the Emperor's the one to kind of finish it. So you've got that kind of Luke doing that took away the dark, like he did kill off Darth Vader, and Anakin came back, and then but the Emperor's the one actually so I do think it's kind of part and part.
Then again, you have Vader who then eventually sort of picks himself up and stands at the Emperor's side.
But he is wheezing, though. Like he's proper.
He's laboured, isn't he?
So if his suit's not fixed, he will die, because the thing is, his suit's been opened, and the whole point in his suit is it's all like, because if part of it's open, this is why it doesn't make sense when Obi-Wan has his helmet is cracked, and it's just weird. But that's been broken,
and we get that awful special edition change. Watching it again, I'm thinking which gets off better? Is it A New Hope or is it Return of the Jedi? Honestly, I think Return of the Jedi gets fucked the most when it comes to the special edition changes, followed very, very closely by A New Hope. But this was the scene that made me not buy the Blu-rays. When they announced that they were coming out on Blu-ray in 2011 in the sweet box set with like young Anakin on the front on Tatooine, like this artwork. It was a really, really nice box set, actually, beautifully presented. And I wanted to buy it because I wanted to have Star Wars in the best visual quality possible. And then I heard that more changes had been added to it. And I thought, oh God, here we go. What have we got? And they're all the horrendous changes that we've seen over the last few weeks. But the one that made me not buy the box set, and I still don't own the box set, was when I saw that they'd added the no to Vader deciding to throw Palpatine
This is the thing.
over.
Everyone screams in this. There's a lot of Boba Fett scream. There's so many screams in this. I was there in my head thinking, he screamed and he screamed and he screamed. There was a lot of it, and it was kind of sometimes a bit unnecessary, like because Boba Fett's scream didn't sound like him. It was weird.
Well, it sounded like him probably at the time, but
Well, they've changed it since. So
Well,
if you're
yeah,
going to do it,
well,
if you're
yeah,
going to
so they-
retcon that, retcon the whole thing. Don't just half a
Exactly.
job.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
know JX Editor's changed that, actually. He's done an edit of that where he's replaced it with Tamara Morrison voice. But yeah, Vader screaming no is absolutely awful. And before that point, it was one of my favorite scenes in the whole saga, because I thought one of the best designs with Vader is that it's a static mask, but through the mannerisms and whatnot, even if he doesn't say a word, depending on the scene, it's almost like the face changes. You can see so much emotion coming from that mask, and the design hasn't even changed. It's really difficult to describe. You can look at it and he walks in and he's like, right, that's intimidating, that's scary. There's the bit where he kind of where Luke says, then my father is truly dead, and he walks off, and Vader just walks to the side and puts his hand on the railings, and it almost looks contemplative and, you know, remorseful and things like that. And the bit where he's just staring at his son, and he looks at the Emperor and he looks at his son, you can read everything that's going on behind that mask.
Yeah.
You don't need dialogue. It was beautifully handled, and I just feel like that scene's been ruined now a little bit by adding that sound effect in. It's a small change, but I do think it really impacts the art and the subtleties of that original scene.
Yeah, I know. There's a big argument for less is more.
Yes, exactly.
All the time. I do think the lightsaber battle in this is so much better than one in episode 4, though.
Oh god, yeah. This is my favorite lightsaber duel out of all of them.
So much more to it. They seem more powerful, and Obi-Wan and Darth Vader was just clang, clang, clang.
It was 1977.
Yeah, I know, but still. World War II was in 1940 something, and people, so the point is people could fight.
It's a lot more refined. There's more budget there. Yeah. The technology is developed and everything there. This is going to sound so basic, but as to why this is one of my favorite lightsaber duels, but I just kind of love the color combination of the red against the green in the setting. I love the look of the throne room as well. Like I think it's just a wonderful set. Like just visually, I was paying attention to that a lot more tonight, seeing it on the big screen. And it does have my favorite shot of all Star Wars films. It's my favorite moment, my favorite shot. If someone said, what's your favorite moment in Star Wars? Binary Sunset might be up there, actually, as one of my favorite moments, but this is up there. And it's the bit where Luke snaps, if you will not turn to the dark side, then perhaps she will. And he comes out swinging, and he's going crazy. And the soundtrack in this point, it's so very, very different from anything else John Williams has done in the original trilogy. And you get this sort of very haunting, melancholy choir that kicks in very subtly in the background. It's very somber. It sounds like a tragedy when you listen to it. It's so, and I did get chills tonight watching it. I hate to say it sounds really cliche, but I did. I could feel it underneath my coat. I got like chills on end watching it on the big screen. But you get this camera pan from left to right, and you've got the two in the distance behind the staircase fighting it out. That shot, that pan, that is my favorite single shot out of all 6 Star Wars films. And it still has that impact on me today.
Yeah, I mean, I do you know what? I do like the clash of the lightsabers and when the Emperor's looking at them.
Yeah, that's a great shot.
I think that's cool. And the color combination there works really well. Mm-hmm. And I love the design of the Emperor in this. His white skin. He's very, very pale. He's very, I love the colors like the red around his eyes, which it was not captured in episode. No, in episode 3, he didn't need to look exactly the same. But in episode 5, him looking like episode 3 was not captured like he is in episode 6. But his design in 6 was very creepy and mysterious.
3 is weird because when he turns into the Emperor, his voice is like really bassy and echoey, and he sounds like a demon. And I'm like, well, that's not really what the Emperor sounded like. He kind of levels off towards the end of episode 3.
To be fair, I think it's kind of that shock factor with all that happening to him. I think that's why. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, he's not as much monster face in this. He's just an old man. Whereas in episode 3, they make him a bit more. I hate that because I always thought, well, it was Palpatine, this like super old, centuries old creature that was, performing as a glamour and blending in with everyone. And then he like got rid of that and revealed his true monstrous self. But then you read the Plagueis novel and it's like, well, no, because he was a human and he killed his parents and killed his family and whatnot. So he is just a regular human. And I guess the electricity just fried his face and made him look like that.
But then Anakin gets electrocuted in episode 2 for a short spell. Luke gets electrocuted for a very, very long
Yeah,
time.
but there's a difference. It was reflecting. It was the waves of it rather than just electricity on you, burning you. So I guess, but I didn't like the design.
I just don't like that in episode 3. It's like, we haven't got to explain why the Emperor looks the way that he does right now. He could just be super old. On that topic, though, isn't it amazing how, I find this fascinating, how Ian McDiarmid, as an actor, has aged into the character, because he was super fucking young when he played the Emperor in this movie. He would have been like 30 something when he played him.
Yeah, I did think that. It's
I love that.
It's done very, very well. What isn't done well is his look in episode 9.
I thought he looked kind of actually visually. I think that's probably one of the coolest things in episode 9 is the look of Exegol and the Emperor. I like how he was like hooked up to that like crane machine, like keeping him alive.
The look of Exegol, sure, but that was awful. I did the fact the Emperor was back. No, fuck off.
Oh yeah, no, I hate that the Emperor's back, but just objectively, I didn't mind the look of him. I just didn't like the fact that he was back.
Fan. I still wasn't a big fan of him. I thought it was a bit.
Travis says this is easily the best opening act of the original trilogy. I think there's so much creativity and world building in it. Every piece of every scene has its own story to tell. Yeah, I love all of the creature designs in Jabba's palace. I don't like the special edition change of Jedi rocks, and every time I watch it, I just have my head in my hand, just cringing from embarrassment.
Lady Greedo.
Lady Greedo with like the big head of hair. Yeah, you've got a Cy Snootles, who you actually see in the wide shot is still the puppet from the original cut, and then all of a sudden becomes the CGI version. That was not pleasant, seeing Cy Snootles turn with like the giant lips in the camera, and then that fucking thing that goes like, and you see like the little strands of spit in his mouth. That was not pleasant to watch on a big screen. What I did think was cool, though, is Femi Taylor, who plays Ula, filmed all those extra scenes in the special edition where she falls in the pit. Now, that was always the version of the film that I watched, and I just assumed that that was part of the original cut, but those were filmed like 10 years later from when it was originally done, 10 plus years later, and she looks exactly the same. It fits in absolutely seamlessly.
Black people don't age.
She still looks great, yeah, you know.
And she was in
black don't crack, apparently, because she still looks incredible.
When you wear green.
I met her last year at Comic-Con, and she was, I had about like a 10-15 minute conversation with her. She was absolutely lovely. Talked about how she got the role, but also she was in Cats as well on the West End before that point. So we talked about that as well. And she was really cool. She told me some of her favorite music, what she was listening to. Good stuff. She turns out she's a fan of Robbie Williams, which is great.
Me too.
So Travis says, as a kid, when the droid mentions that the tiny protocol droid is being disintegrated, I thought it was his own son because they looked alike. Oh no. Yeah, I like that scene. I like that the droids are being tortured. Some people have said, well, can droids be tortured? I was like, well, it just shows how horrible and how perilous Jabba's palace is for everyone involved.
I guess for Jabba's palace, it's like, if they can, we will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. Travis says, I imagine it was quicker to build. Oh, he's referring to the Death Star 2. It was because the original Death Star was built from scratch. Now they've done it once. They have a blueprint to do it again.
How hard is it to make a big ball?
Well, that's true, but
do you know what
the Geonosians came up with the plan, right? And they were helping, if not construct it. Well, they weren't constructing it, were they, at that point? But at least funding all of the supplies for it. But then Geonosis in the canon in Clone Wars gets completely leveled and fucked. But even if you choose to ignore that out of the canon, which I do, because it's just the 6 films for me, I don't know. In the span of a couple of years, in like 4 years, you've pretty much almost constructed another full Death Star that's working.
One thing I don't like is when they made the Lego Death Star, they made it the Death Star 2. So it's not complete. So you make an incomplete one. I just found that fucking weird. It was also a grand, so that's another thing I didn't like. But
I wonder if anyone's bought like 2 sets.
I always said to myself I'd do that, but I don't. It's not often I have a spare $2,000 lying in the house. So couldn't do it. But
Lego's expensive, man. I really want. So they've released 2 new Lord of the Rings sets. They've released Rivendell, which is fucking huge, and the Tower of Barad-dûr, and I would absolutely love it. I'd love to build the back Tower of Barad-dûr and have it on that bedside cabinet right there as a little background thing. That would be cool. Rivendell, I don't know where I put that, but yeah, it's so much money. It's like hundreds and hundreds of pounds for it, and it's probably not worth it at the end of the day, is it?
Have you seen the Mos Eisley one? The cantina. It's £500 or
Is it?
£400 or something. Yeah, because you can
It's about
close
how
it and
much
it's
the
a
Lord of the
proper
Rings
like
ones are.
nice, and then you open it up and it's got all the stuff in there.
Yeah. Travis says, I initially had a problem with the Han Lando bit, but I think despite Han being angry at Lando, he accepted the situation he was faced with, and hearing that he's helping was enough for him. Yeah, I could see that. Oh, question regarding that whole opening scene. What do you think to the Sarlacc pit? No beak, or do you prefer the beak?
I prefer no beak because it's always a mystery.
Yeah.
Like we don't know what's in there. With the beak, I don't hate the design.
It's Little Shop of Horrors, isn't it? It's like a Venus flytrap.
It
thing.
is, yeah. I don't hate the design of the beak. I think it looks quite cool. Like it's not something I think, ugh, like it's not that at all. But I think if you're going to have it without, it's that mystery. But then think about it like this: in the original, the Rancor was a mystery. We never know what it looked like, right?
No. Well, you see it eventually.
Oh, do you see it?
Yeah. Well, you have the whole fight with.
No,
Luke,
but do you see its face? I can't remember how much you see.
Yeah,
If it's just legs and stuff.
See, it's all the same amount.
Oh, okay. I thought there was
the only bit that got added in was where Ula falls into the pit, and we know that there's something. We see the door open and her reaction. That's not in the original.
Okay, cool. I couldn't remember how much we saw. I thought it was only like a leg or something. I thought because then the contrast, you got a mystery of this and a mystery of this.
I think you're thinking of the Wampa from the original cut where you don't see much of it.
But the side, like the thing is, you just keep that mystery. We don't need to see everything.
What's weird is you still get wide shots in this that are from the original cut. Like there's bits where it pulls. I think it's the bit where Boba Fett gets eaten and there's the CGI beak there, and then it cuts to the wide shot where the Sarlacc burps, and it's just back to the normal hole in the ground without the beak. It's like, well, if you're gonna do it, make sure it's consistent in every scene.
Yep, consistency is key. But people don't do consistency, especially computers.
Travis says Chewie explaining things is something I've never considered, which clears up a lot. Yeah, so what I see if I can get your name right, JX in the comments. I'm just about to get to your comments, dude. So if you're still listening, this is a shout out to you. You've pointed a lot of plot holes out to me in regards to Return of the Jedi, which I never even considered before. That being one of them, the whole Lando and Han thing. But another one that you pointed out, and I think a few other channels that I've seen of reviews of this film, mentioned that Luke's plan makes absolutely no sense. Like, what was Luke's plan when he went to rescue Han?
To be fair, I don't have much of a plan when I do things.
But that's what I'm saying. So I was watching that again this time, and honestly, I still don't have a problem with it because you can kind of see what his plan is. He goes there with diplomacy first. He says, please hand him over. And Jabba's like, no. And he tries again. He tries a way with words, and then he tries to threaten Jabba, and Jabba's having none of it. He signals to Lando, who is there in the group and has got a weapon. R2, we know, has got his lightsaber and has got that contained. So when he needs it, the lightsaber's there. And he also does grab the blaster and he goes to take a shot at Jabba. So he would have just point blank shot Jabba in the face. And then I guess would have got the lightsaber from R2 and started hacking his way out and rescued Han that way. As it happens, it doesn't go down that way, so I feel like he has to improvise. He's in a situation where Lando is still there to help out. R2 is up on the walkway, and the rest is as plays out. So I think the plan would have been very, very similar. I think it was just the situation changed, and he had to change with the situation. So honestly, the whole plan not making sense, it's fine to me. I feel like he just improvised on the spot.
Oh, yeah. I don't think there's nothing wrong with him. What was his plan?
Well, it's like he sends R2 and 3PO there to integrate themselves, I guess, to pass on the message. I guess that's just tying in with trying to persuade Jabba with words.
Yeah, and as a little bit of a distraction of just something to get him away. I didn't understand. I never understood his death, though.
What, Jabba?
Yeah.
Who gets strangled?
Yeah, I know, but where's his neck?
You gotta find it under all those folds.
But that's what I mean. Like, I've never understood that. I thought I get it, but it's like, does he have a neck and like that? Would that? I don't know. It's just,
I guess he does. I guess he does. Yeah.
I don't know. It's just always been a bit like if you're that fat and you get shot, you could just pull the bullet out. It's not gonna. No, but like if you get strangled, I just think strangling would just. I don't know. It just always seemed a bit weird. Like you'd think he would die a bit differently.
I never thought that, to be honest.
I have.
What I will say is, though, the puppet of Jabba the Hutt looks fucking outstanding. I think this thing, I swear to God, I read that it weighed a ton. I might be wrong about that, but I know it had to have a lot of people operating it. I think, did they have like small people inside operating it as well? Midgets? Did they have like midgets inside, like operating
just Warwick Davis just running up and down, doing like each bit. what it is.
But like looking at the puppet, like I love the way that the pupils kind of dilate and the eyes move, and there's just so much expression to it. And I'm like, that was someone fucking built that and operated it, and it looks so good. And that's why I really hate that scene in A New Hope, where it's number one, if you're watching the original trilogy in order, it just spoils the reveal of Jabba, and it's this CGI piece of shit. So visually, Jabba the Hutt doesn't match from A New Hope. Within the same trilogy of itself, it doesn't visually match, and the puppet just looks so much fucking better. I like just the theatrical versions in that Jabba the Hutt gets mentioned, that, you know, there's a bounty on Han's head. Jabba the Hutt gets mentioned again in Empire Strikes Back, and then you get your final reveal, and Jabba's larger than life. You could always think, like, who's Jabba the Hutt? Is he a guy? Is he like a Scottish guy? And then
is he a wizard?
Vast slug thing.
He looks like a wizard.
But Jabba's palace does get like hamstrung by a lot of the CGI changes, with special edition changes. Sorry, we've already mentioned Jedi rocks, but also in the Blu-ray version, when everyone's asleep in Jabba's palace, you see a CGI fucking Sebulba walking across.
I never
for some
understood
reason.
that where they all sleep. Is it just like he just goes right bedtime and they're all in front of everyone? Like
Yeah.
there's no everyone goes to their beds. It's just we're just gonna close our eyes, okay, and everyone's just there.
Apart from Salacious Crumb, who's just very intently watching Jabba the Hutt's tail for some reason. I love Salacious Crumb. He's, you know, a comic relief character, but he is like a little gremlin, and the laugh just gets me every time. I'm such a child every time I see him.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about the laughs, though, isn't it? When anyone laughs, it's always their funniest trait.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I fucking love it. I love Salacious B. Crumb, and don't forget his middle name, Salacious B. Crumb. I wonder what the B stands for.
Bernard.
Let me. I want to check.
Bernard. It's got to be Bernard.
Oh god, my keyboard is doing a thing. Oh my god,
It's got to be Bernard.
click off that.
It's got to be Bernard.
Bernard.
Yeah.
Do you think? I think it might be this keyboard. Is this keyboard just having a hissy fit? Let me try and. Is this my old? I don't know. Could be the other. Oh, it's this one. Aha! I found the culprit. There we go. Oh shit! We're opening music now. Apparently. There we go. Oh god, stuff is happening. Travis says, I also have that discontent with Vader and Anakin's lines, especially learning Anakin is only supposed to be like 39 to 44 in this trilogy. That's what I mean. They've aged him down so massively. I do think, though, Anakin, Sebastian Shaw being 70 something when they filmed it, that doesn't even line up with Obi-Wan, because now he is a lot older. He's like at least 10 years older than Alec Guinness, and I always feel like Alec Guinness should be that mentor figure, that teacher, so he should be older than him. So that didn't make sense anyway. But yeah, especially when you go to the prequels, if you're going by their ages, he should be 44, and he ain't a 44-year-old guy, and he ain't Canadian either. But yeah, just the way that Vader carries himself, and there are so many lines to go to, pretty much every line of Vader's. But
I think what would have been better as well is if when Obi-Wan died, he didn't learn how to become one with the Force, and then you had the Qui-Gon show up and talk to Luke, and he'd be like, "Who are you?" It's like, "Oh, yeah, I taught Obi-Wan. Yeah, I didn't teach him how to do this." So, and then he just chats to him. He's like, "Who the fuck are you?" It's like, "Yeah, trust me. I know him." I think that would have been great.
Travis says Sebastian Shaw was 78 in this movie. Wow, I thought he was mid-70s. I didn't realize he was rattling on the door of 80, making him 10 years older than Alec Guinness, which makes for some weird continuity. It also implies Anakin was having kids in his late 50s. Yeah.
A guy can have kids in his late 50s. It's women that can't.
Yeah.
So it
checks
fine.
out.
Yeah. Also, it is a land of space and space wizards.
It is a land of milk and honey, apparently. Jake says, did I have the check mark before I got hacked? Also, you want the 1980s prequels? Blame Marsha Lucas. Did I have the check mark before I got hacked? I don't know. I can't remember. Travis says the false memory thing checks out. As a baby, my mum said I pooped out an entire McDonald's hamburger, but as the story was told across time, it became half a patty, then a quarter, then just a turd.
Well, you know what he does? It checks out. False memory.
Luke's fundamental weakness in his rage when he... Luke's fundamental weakness is his rage when his loved ones are threatened. And whenever that happens, he makes dumb choices that ruin it for everyone, something he hasn't got over in the sequels. We don't talk about the sequels.
But that's like Anakin. That's exactly what he did. So that you know, it's his connection to the ones he
Mhm.
loves. So that makes perfect sense. I did like that he lashes out. I do think we didn't get enough. To be fair, they were really good friends. So it does make sense.
Mhm.
But her being his sister, to me, has always just been so pointless. Like, why is she a sister? It's kind of like, you know, Halloween 2, when Laurie Strode ends up being Michael Myers' sister. I'm like,
Great comparison there. Yeah.
But the thing is, I like Halloween 2. It's still a good movie. But I was like, but why? What was the purpose of this? It's the same with this. Like, realistically, what's the purpose of her being a sister? What is the purpose? Why do we need that to happen? To say, maybe people could say, oh yeah, but then you can have, oh, there is another, and it's just to show there's someone else. It's like, okay, but we didn't need another. We might have done in that whole where it's go, oh, maybe there's another to make you think, maybe whatever. But yeah, I'm not a fan of her being a sister. I mean, it's fine, but it's pointless. And the whole at the end where she goes, "Oh, I know he's not on there." Yeah, I've always that. And then when it was like, when it's like, "Oh, what if Luke was on the Death Star?"
Oh, at the very end, sorry. Yeah,
as well. It's kind of, she could feel it. It's like, you couldn't feel any fucking thing in the Force until these last 10 minutes of the movie. Shut up.
Not true. End of Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, but
she's got the gift. And here's the thing: I'm not sure when that decision was changed, because I know that they posited the idea. No, there was going to be a sister. It was going to be a totally different character. It wasn't going to be Leia. I'm not sure when that decision changed. I'm not sure if it was during the making of Empire Strikes Back,
would have been cool,
or if the decision, or if the decision was changed between production, between that 3 years in between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. Because the reason is, even if you watch Empire Strikes Back, even without any knowledge, you have Yoda saying, well, Obi-Wan and Yoda, that boy was our last hope. No, there is another. And then at the very end of that movie, you have Luke calling to Leia through the Force and Leia picking up on it and the Force theme playing. So I think even within that movie, it sets it up. Regardless whether you've seen Return of the Jedi at that point.
What's the point in setting up? What's the point in it, realistically? What's the point in her being a sister? Aside from George Lucas going, I've got an idea, we can get some incest in.
Because it's about family, and that's what's so important about it. But yeah, when you break it down that way, that doesn't check out, because you have the kiss, the infamous kiss scenes.
That's fine. They didn't know they were related. That's fine. If he was Henry VIII, he would have changed the law. Like, that's fine. But the thing that to me, it just seems so pointless. And the fact that she's got she's got the gift, like you say at the end of episode 5, sure, whatever. But it's like she hasn't done anything with it. It just feels very like, what's the purpose of her having it? I get she doesn't have to do anything with it, but it just feels so redundant.
I do think there are a lot of grounds for what would eventually go on to be the expanded universe, though. Like, I do like that scene where Luke talks to his sister outside, and he says, "One day you'll learn how to use that power too." I do like that, because it is world building. It leads to what could go on, and did go on with the expanded universe and things like that. So I like that it kind of sets stuff up for the future, the longevity of the franchise afterwards. I don't know. Yeah, it didn't need to happen. I don't think he needed another sibling, but I guess it shows that the Jedi Order could expand and could continue afterwards.
Darth
and
Vader
rebuild.
being like, "Oh, sister," and they didn't give a shit. It's like, cool, you got a daughter and you don't care. It just felt so pointless to me. It's like, right, so we're not going to have a little emotion, and there's nothing between them. It's just fucking silly. Like, it's just, I don't know, just the weirdest decision. I've always felt weird about it. It's always rubbed me the wrong way.
We're backdated on the comments at the minute, so I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people saying stuff about that. So looking forward to getting to that. Travis says, in episode 4, Han calls it luck that Luke could deflect blaster bolts blindfolded, insulting the Force. Here it's him who's blind, having to make the shot to save Lando. Oh, interesting. Yeah. There is a line change, though, in that scene between the original and the special edition. The bit where he gets the blaster and aims it, and Lando goes like, "I thought you said you couldn't. I thought you said you were blind." The original one was like, "It's fine, trust me," and then he shoots the Sarlacc. And then in the special edition, it was changed to, "It's fine, I can see a lot better."
It's weird things like that you think, what's the point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Travis says, Leia named her son Ben because her and Ben were close, but in my headcanon, Han agreed because it was him taking Obi-Wan's advice that saved his friend. We don't talk about the sequels. His sons were Jason and Anakin Solo, and they had a daughter called Jaina Solo as well. So that's what I'm going with.
Adam Driver doesn't exist. Fucking hate that man.
Let's see. Travis says the Blu-ray changes were really bad, so if I can help it, I've never upgraded past the 2004 effects. Yeah. My favorite version of this film, well, actually, it has got the special edition changes in, but my favorite version of the ending, and the one special edition change of this film that I do really like, apart from the obvious cleanup and everything, pitch quality, sound quality, is the victory celebration music at the end. I've always loved that piece of music. It's one of my favorites out of the entire saga. I've loved the melody of that ever since I was a kid. And I like how conclusive it does feel things, especially in the special edition where it cuts to all the different planets celebrating. Could do without the whole Weezer Free scene from Naboo. I could do without that. Thank you, 2011. But the best version of the special edition ending, in my opinion, is the 97 version, which is what I grew up with on video. And it does cut to the other planets. It cuts to Bespin, it cuts to Tatooine, and it cuts to what would be Coruscant. I always thought that was still Bespin and Cloud City when I was younger, but obviously later on it would go on to be Coruscant. But it has the victory celebration music, but it also still has Sebastian Shaw, Force Ghost, at the end.
Do you think
and that to me is
Palpatine has a wife?
Palpatine has a child.
Well, we know, but like...
no. I'm talking about in the old expanded universe.
To be fair,
is it JX? Yeah. Is it Triclops? What's his name? Kinetoclops? What's his fucking name? So he does have a kid. Palpatine does get his fuck on with someone.
With who?
I can't. JX. Who does Palpatine fuck?
Or does he have like a thing with someone? Does he have a one night stand? We need to establish this.
Yeah.
Was he a player or was he?
Good old creamy Sheev. Travis says it's interesting as this is the first and only time Vader doesn't harm anyone outside of the fight with Luke and defeating the Emperor. He's basically just Anakin the entire movie. Yeah. What do you think about that? Because I know some people are quite critical of the fact that Vader is quote unquote soft this movie. I don't know. I think that's a good progression for the end of Empire.
I don't think he's soft. I think it was normal. I think it's natural. He because the thing is, he didn't know he had a son in episode 4. It was the Emperor that kind of told, and he's like, yeah, kind of, and that was where he sort of figured it all out. By episode 6, he's got a son, and I don't think he's harmless. I just think, like you say, it's a natural progression. I don't think there's anything wrong with, because I never thought, he's quite harmless in this. He doesn't kill anyone. I never really thought that in this. And then he does fight Luke anyway. So I don't think there's a problem with him at all. I think it's a great natural progression for him.
And I think, he kills a lot of Imperial officers in Empire Strikes Back throughout the movie. But even during the fight with his son, he's pulling his punches. Vader could just end Luke like that if he really wanted to. But he's like a cat. Cat and mouse kind of thing. He's playing with his prey, and his ultimate goal is to turn Luke to the dark side in that moment and bring him on board. And I think that when Luke throws himself off, Vader could quite easily lift him up or stop him or whatever, but he lets him go in that moment, whether it's like a realization or capping his power somehow.
Do you remember Pink Vader?
I do remember Pink Vader.
Yeah, what was that in again?
That was
the girl Vader.
It was Star Wars spoof video, wasn't it?
I remember. But it just came into my head.
Mm-hmm.
Shit, it was a British thing as well.
Yeah.
What was it? It wasn't Robot Chicken because obviously it was live action.
It wasn't Robot Chicken, no. It was a live action thing.
Yeah.
I actually can't remember now.
But I remember. Yeah, Pink Vader. That was fun.
Anon says, have you seen the fan-made Vader versus Obi-Wan vid? Yes. Yeah, I have seen that.
I liked it.
I think it's just way too over the top, but I do applaud the effort that went into it because a lot of hard work went into it.
I liked it because it's in, it works with the prequels being made.
Well, it does, but it's also intercut with footage from the 1977 movie, and it just doesn't, the music, the effects, it goes way too over the top. I don't need Obi-Wan Kenobi getting pushed into a wall and Vader throwing his lightsaber down a corridor and the camera panning around the lightsaber in slow motion, it's doing too fucking much. Travis says this is the best lightsaber duel of the saga. I think agreed, totally agree. There's so much visual storytelling, the choreography, music, and character throughout is epic. Yeah, it's always been my favorite. I love the one in Empire, and that is visually striking as well and has its place and is probably my second favorite. But this has everything to me. It's that emotional payoff. And even as a kid, I always really connected with Luke in that scene, and just I loved everything that was going on and just how climactic everything feels. And I think that's why I love this movie the most. I love the opening action beat with Jabba's palace. I think it's really creative. I think it's really fun with the puppets, and it's a nice little action scene with all of your favorite characters together, and the rescue and the victory. Slumps a little bit in the middle, but by God, it pulls it back during that whole everything to do with the ending. The Ewok stuff, it's fun, it's fine. That is probably the weakest stuff, but I love the space battle. It's exhilarating, it's flashy, it's intense. Some great lines in there. You have Admiral Akbar. It's a trap, and But how can they be jamming us if they don't know that we're coming? You got the music, that bum bum ba da da dun 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 da da da. Like the soundtrack's amazing, and the whole lightsaber fight. It's perfection, and I think the ending sticks with me the most, and I think that's why I like it the most. It's the most emotionally it's the emotional resolution to the saga that I really cling on to. I think
they should have just got Starkiller on Endor and just pulled the Death Star out of the sky.
God. Let's see. Travis says, while the Empire fight is entertaining, I think for me, it's just a lot of people kicking each other off of stuff, disappearing and reappearing, then throwing things at each other. I think you could break any lightsaber fight down like that, though, couldn't you? It's just like, oh, yeah, the lightsaber fight in Return of the Jedi, it's just a bunch of people jumping onto things and talking at each other, and then Vader throws something at someone else that makes him fall down. I think you could say that about any lightsaber fight, really, when you break it down.
I do like the idea of lightsabers, though, the fact that when they cut like people's hands off and stuff, because if you were to cut your hand off with a lightsaber, it burns over the cut, so there would be no blood. Like, I like the idea of that. I think it's quite cool.
Yeah. One thing I'll say, though, like on the sail barge, when Luke's like carving through everyone, and I get it, it's like 1983 and everything wasn't refined, but he is just swinging that thing like a baseball bat, and he is just kind of like hitting people and they fall on the ground. There's no like
sometimes it doesn't even hit them. He's like that.
Yeah. There's no burn mark, there's no wound or anything when they go down. It's just like clunk, clunk, and they fall down. So it's fine. It was 1983, it's fine. Travis says, growing up with the 2004 editions, I love all the new musical editions over the original ones. Well, I don't like Jedi Rocks. Let's not get crazy about these things. But everything else, yeah, I do love them. Could you just pass me that box set down there, please?
I
The
like Jedi
Star
Rocks.
Wars one?
Which one? This one?
That's, that one.
That's the Star Wars
the
one.
DVD one. Oh, yeah, it is. Just the DVDs. Thanks. So yeah, these are the 2004 ones. It's annoying because there was like a little paper bit at the back of this, which I think I got rid of as a kid, which was annoying because it kind of just fell off. Once you unwrapped it out the cellophane, it just fell off the back.
I put it inside.
I should have done that, but I was a fucking idiot, and now I'm gonna have to try and buy these again. I think they released like a gold version of this. This was the silver one. I think they did.
It was like a limited.
Yeah, and now I should have bought that as well.
Didn't they?
Yeah,
years ago. Yeah,
and I remember I got this from Argos in Tamworth. I remember going up to the counter. I was so excited.
Mine was Woolworths.
Yeah, I do love like that embossed thing. Yeah, that was a nice box set. I'm gonna have to try and buy that again in a bit better. These are very, very much watched. You can tell with like the corners and everything. But yeah,
I think this was the first one I had years ago. Was this
one? Oh yeah, it's supposed to be.
I think that was the first one I had many years ago.
Yeah, so these are the
like
videos.
My
these were like. Own them for the last time ever in their original versions. Yeah, digital, THX mastered, superior sound. Yeah, love the artwork on that box though.
I like the cool. This one.
Yeah,
the New Hope one.
Yeah, that's nice.
It's great.
Oh, so many different versions of Star Wars, so little time. Yeah, Travis says they show a lot of Ula. You full on see boobies and other stuff. Yeah, you do. I may have paused that scene once or twice. My time. Oh my God, Travis says I have the original Death Star 2 Lego set in my closet unopened. That is if you ever choose to sell that friend,
that will go for a lot of money.
You'll be rolling.
If it's unopened.
Oh God, yeah. If it's in good condition and unopened.
Because the thing about Lego as well, it gets discontinued, they don't do it anymore. Yeah. So that would be worth a lot of money.
I'm gutted that I never bought the Tim Burton.
Sit on it until you come into issues.
I didn't know discontinuing was a thing until I always wanted the Tim Burton 1989 Batmobile, and the box looked so cool, but it was like £90, and I was like, one day, that's too much money for plastic. Like I can't. And then they fucking discontinued it, and now it's like 600 quid.
See, that attitude this is why, I mean, I'm not a fan of his music, but this is why I like Ed Sheeran, because I was watching this interview he said with him, and he was just like, when his album went to #1, he saw the Lego Death Star, he went, it's time. I was like, exactly. It fucking is. When you've suddenly got millions, you go, that's time, that's what I'm doing. Good.
Travis says, Luke screws up his own plan when he pulls the blaster, so he delays his own plan. Yeah. Although I think the plan would have been fine had he not been standing on the Rancor pit. That wasn't a great idea.
I've never been a fan of the Rancor design.
Really?
Yeah,
I quite like the Rancor.
Never like loved it. I don't hate it. I've never been blown away.
I like the little side characters though in the Star Wars original trilogy. Like, I like the Rancor keeper, the fat guy who runs and starts crying. There's so much of a story there, isn't there?
I know. He looks like a what are they called with the black hoods, the guillotine.
Oh, executioners.
Yeah. He looks like an executioner.
Yeah. Trevor says, in one of the Infinities comics, C-3PO's head falls off when Jabba knocks him over, so he can't translate for Leia, which makes everything a lot worse. Yeah, I think that's the Return. Yeah, it's the Return of the Jedi one. That's the one that I read as a kid. I never actually read the A New Hope or Empire Strikes Back Infinities. These were the ones I was telling you about where one incident changes, which changes the whole rest of the story. So it's Leia as the bounty hunter, as Boosh, brings out the thermal detonator to scare Jabba, but she accidentally drops it, and it detonates, and it fucking blows up, and it changes the entire rest of the story. And I actually can't remember what happens to the rest of the story, but I do know that Vader turns good at the end and shows up, and he's fully decked out in white armor because he's on the good side now. So he still has scary skeleton skull mask, breathing mask thing, but he's in white armor now because they're racist apparently, and white is good.
That's the other way around now, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm just sad that there's bikini is the purple thing going down her asses. I'm like, oh, could have seen things.
Yeah, I know. And there's the bit where she's on the gun, and it's like you're like, oh, no, I tried.
Yeah.
And we've got Derpy says, "Hey man, how you doing, Derpy?" Travis says, "I was always disgusted with the dry boogers on Jabba that build up as the movie goes on." Oh yeah, I know, he's gross.
That's what we like about it.
Yeah. I'm whatever about the plan at this point. I'm more focused on making that part of the plot matter somehow for the rest of it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Travis says, "I just remember the Blu-ray change of Sebulba going to take a crap." Yeah. Just why?
Who's the Harry Potter character?
Yeah, I was reading that.
Did we mention someone?
Powell McPoof. Powell McPoof might be a Harry Potter character.
Did we mention something? Did we mention the Harry Potter character?
Is there not a Harry Potter? What names have we said?
If we were talking about episode 9, that's very.
Oh, was it Salacious Crumb? Because there was Victor.
That
Crumb.
That might be it. To be fair,
there's Victor Crumb. Yeah,
that might be it. But episode 9 is very Harry Potter, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Basically, Harry Potter in space. Yay.
Travis says, "I love the little cackle Crumb gives after C-3PO says R2 is playing the wrong message. He's just laughing because they screwed up. It's so childish." Yeah, no, I love Salacious Crumb. I love his little laugh. I love the little grumble he makes as well when R2 electrocutes him up to the ceiling, and he goes out like, yeah. And then he blows up on the sail barge. But apparently in Disney continuity, Bib Fortuna survives because he goes on to be the major domo of Jabba's palace. So he's in the ass end of nowhere in the Dune Sea, and apparently must have jumped off the sail barge before it exploded, somehow made his way back with no vehicle to Jabba's palace, and made himself the major domo. Again, another reason that Disney canon is non-existent to me. JX says the identity of the twins changed between 5 and 6. Oh, okay. He was going to make a sequel where Luke was going to look for his sister and go after the Emperor who was alive. Well, yeah, the Emperor's, of course, the Emperor's alive.
A sequel after 6.
Yes, yeah.
I still don't like the idea of the Emperor being alive after 6. Hate it. No matter what your idea is, it's just a terrible idea. He's supposed to die.
Here we go. So Palpatine's real son. Yeah, his real son is Triclops. Fake son is Trioculus. Both have 3 eyes.
Trioculus? Is he Transformer or something?
Apparently, yes.
Who the fuck calls that kid Trioculus? Fucking, he must be in court for child abuse.
Let's see.
So who the fuck called his granddaughter Ray?
Yeah, I know.
Fucking comes up with
It
this
doesn't
name?
make any sense, does it?
That's kind of like I knew this kid at school, and everyone in his family had like interesting names, like Annalise and stuff, like long names like that. And his dad was called Matt, and I was like, "Your dad fucked it up for you. Like, what? Why?"
Travis said, interestingly, in the radio version from 1996, C3PO is standing with Luke at the end, and Luke saying Anakin is smiling on them. See, that's kind of cool because that was in 1996, and 3 years later, Anakin would go on to create C3PO. So technically,
why do you keep saying it was like C3PO, C3PO or something? You keep saying it weird.
That's how I've always said it. It's like Boba Fett and Boba Fett.
Yeah, but but you say C3PO. Like why? It's why emphasis on the P? C3PO. There's no emphasis.
I don't know. That's just how I've always said it. Get off my case.
I've never even noticed it's on his second.
C3PO. Yeah.
No, that's not
C3PO.
That's like calling vodka vodka. Like
that's a great cool name for it, though. I don't know. That's just how I've always said it. That's kind of cool though, because Anakin's essentially looking over at his two children.
Yeah.
He created, but the Maker, essentially.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about Anakin creating C3PO.
I hate it. I absolutely fucking hate it.
I do like the original design of C3PO a lot better though. I think that's really cool. No, the wires. The naked version.
I think
that's
the
cool.
prequel version.
Yeah, I prefer that because I remember the figure I had of it when I was a kid, and I just thought it looked so cool, and I just always thought that was so much better than the gold with the random silver leg that no one actually notices ever.
Yeah, I know.
It took me until I was at least 16 to notice. Like it took me a long ass time.
I remember I had a little action figure of 3PO, and it had the silver leg.
See, there you said it right. You didn't say 3PO. You said 3PO.
I'm really conscious of it now. I'm going to say it again at some point. And it had the silver leg, and I thought, is this like a cheap little fucking knockoff version? And then I watched it, I was like, oh no, he actually does have it.
Isn't it? And it's one of those things. It's like, how did we not notice that? Is that why they gave him a red? Is it a red arm in 7?
Yeah. Now I'm thinking about it. So 3PO has, so he's essentially naked in the first movie with all the wires on show. In 2, he's got like the kind of rusted whatever they could find coverings when he's with the Lars family. I want to say he's all gold in episode 3 when he's like at Padme's place and he's like super shiny and chrome.
But I don't know.
And then 4, he's got a random silver leg. Yeah, and he just has that through the rest of the OT, doesn't he?
I don't know.
There's a story there. There's probably a book or something and it explains that. But
C3PO's leg. Just called the silver leg.
Jackson says, have you seen the video that breaks down Leia Bush's language? I don't think so. Trevor says, Han is left in the carbonite and taken to Endor by Boba. So he's blind during the Battle of Endor, which makes it hilarious when Lando has him man the guns on the Falcon. Are we all caught up? Yeah, I think we're all caught up. Let's think of some other things then from Return of the Jedi. I'm trying to think of some other things that we can say. We've talked about the Ewoks. We've talked about the Emperor.
My favourite bit's when the Death Star goes bang and then like there's a big part of it that falls in the sea of a planet.
And it's perfectly intact, apparently, with a working TIE fighter.
The throne's intact as well, isn't it? Not even ripped.
The throne's intact. You've got the little automatic, because apparently there's a secret compartment right next to the throne that has the wayfinder to Exegol in there.
What was it? The door opens, doesn't it? Still operational.
The glass is still in the windows of the Death Star.
Yep. See, that's my favorite.
And there's the little dagger that's made that perfectly outlines the point of the Death Star of wreckage that wouldn't land there for many years. Why do the Sith
have their own planet?
Well, they were like a cult, weren't they? And I guess they just got to be like super evil away from all goodness.
I think they originally were like an alien race. I think I can't remember.
JX confirm. Why do the Sith have their own planet, and were they like an alien race before?
I think from what I read, it was something like they were an alien race, and I think then someone took on their name. Like there was an alien race of the Sith, and then someone took on their name and became the Sith. I can't. There's something like that.
I thought you had the Jedi, who were like the ancient Jedi, and from like that ancient group of Force sensitives, some worshipped. Was it Bendu and something else, and some worshipped the light and some worshipped like the moon that was dark, and the dark siders went off to their own place to be all dark sidey, and the Jedi didn't like this, and I think they started to have a fight, and then they eventually became the Sith. I think I don't know.
Do you know what I don't get about Exegol? Like, I do like the design of Exegol. I thought it looked really cool.
Yeah.
But you know, at the end where they have all the ships come over there fighting each other over the planet, that felt very out of place because of the way the planet was. It just felt like, because it didn't feel like a Star Wars movie for a bit, but it was a cool design. And then when the ships came over, I'm like, I feel like now you're trying to be an 80s Star Wars, an 80s sci-fi movie, and it doesn't go with the aesthetic of the planet. It just felt like a mess.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Trevor says, in the comic The Phantom Limb, C-3PO gets the red arm before episode 7 from a droid friend he had who died. It's a really sad story.
What? And then decides he's just not going to pay tribute after episode 7. Because he took it off, didn't he?
Oh, we were kind of both right. The Sith were an alien race, some of whom were Jedi.
Yeah, so that's... I thought it was... I don't remember the actual story, because I remember looking it up ages ago about the Sith, and then I was like, right, so what about the first Sith? Kept going back and back and back, and yeah, there was something like that. It was, half and half.
Trevor says, when we first arrived on Exegol and we saw the storms and Salt Flat, I thought they were going to reveal it was Camino, the water being drained into the center of the planet for resources. I thought it might have been like Korriban or something, because they say like, oh, it's the ancient homeworld of the Sith. This is what annoys me. Every other planet is like the original Jedi origin. You know, you watch the original trilogy, you might think, oh, Dagobah maybe is like the ancient place of the Jedi. It's like, no. And then in every other book, something else has come out. You have Tython, which is meant to be the original home of the Jedi. But then that book comes out where there's like the giant pyramid ships that show up out of nowhere and take on Force sensitives and take them to all different places in the world. And apparently that was the original Jedi template. So, well, no, because there's Mortis, and you've got the father, the daughter, and the son, who are super ancient celestial beings or Force users or whatever the fuck they are. So is Mortis the original Jedi temple? And then episode 8 comes out and it's like, no, Acto is the original Jedi temple. It's like, fucking pick a lane. So it's like Exegol is the homeworld of the Sith. No, it's Korriban. No, it's something else. It's like, Jesus Christ. Return of the Jedi. I'm trying to think of anything else we can say. So we talked about Jabba's palace. We talked about the Ewoks. Anything else that I'm forgetting? Any other changes or things we want to talk about?
The Force Ghost. We kind of touched on that, didn't we?
Fucking
awful.
That's one thing I wanted to bring up, because I've never noticed this until today, watching this film again. When Obi-Wan becomes one with the Force in A New Hope, the cloak remains, right? Vader takes the swing, Obi-Wan becomes one with the Force, and the cloak falls to the ground, and you have that really funny shot where, I've always loved that, where Vader kind of stamps on the cloak in disbelief. He doesn't know what's happened. And then the Force Ghost reappears, and it also has Obi-Wan in the cape. Not in the cape, sorry, in the cloak. The robe. Get it right. When Yoda dies in this, I always remembered Yoda disappearing and his clothes remain and kind of like fall down flat. But I think I was thinking of the duvet, because he gets in bed, doesn't he, when he's on his deathbed? But all of Yoda disappears. His clothes and himself.
That's because Yoda's clothes are a part of him.
I guess they
kind
are.
Of like, it's kind of like I said, Voldemort with the cauldron in the movie, where the cauldron becomes him and in the dark becomes the robes around him. But in the book, he's naked Voldemort.
Yeah.
And he's like, he asks for his robes. So, I think it's kind of like that.
But then when Kylo Ren, it's not canon, but when Kylo Ren disappears, his clothes remain, but he disappears. But I think when Luke disappears in episode 8, I think all of him disappears.
I thought
apart from his cloak that floats away.
That's what I mean.
But his robot hand disappears. The rest of his clothes remain, but it's just his cloak that floats away.
But Darth Vader doesn't disappear, and yet he becomes one with the Force.
He doesn't disappear. I know. It's all.
That's something I don't like. I've never liked Darth Vader becoming one with the Force ever. No matter whether it's Hayden Christensen or Sebastian Shaw.
Yeah.
Terrible idea. Like, it's just not. No, it doesn't work. The only ones that won with the Force is Qui-Gon Jinn, Obi-Wan, and Yoda.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some other Jedi before that probably, but
Travis says the space battle is the best in cinematic history, I think, and the best model sequence. I will totally agree with you there. I've always been blown away with the ending.
There's a space battle I do prefer, though. So in Battlefront 2, whenever I used to play the space battle, so much better.
You fly into the hangar.
Yeah, it was great. Oh, that was so good. That original Battlefront 2 is amazing.
I love when you could you could approach was it like 3 other clones? I actually didn't know you could do this until very, very later into the game, where you're like, you come with me, you come with me, you come with me, and you get like a little squad behind you, and you load them all into a spaceship like a clone arc carrier, and you fly it into the hangar, and you order some part, and you're there with your little buddies, and you just like pot shotting droids.
I didn't know
It's
you
great.
could do that.
Yeah. You have like, wait here, follow me, or
do you remember the medical moon place? Like you're on like a
Polis
asteroid.
Massa,
That
from
was
the end of episode 3.
That was cool.
Not the best map,
but it was no, it was a cool map because you come out of it and you had to like because you come out of like the hangar and you couldn't breathe outside. I can't remember how they did it now, but it was done very well. That whole game was done really well. That was such a good game. That was amazing. I miss games when they were good.
Probably my favorite Star Wars game.
I miss games when they were good. Games aren't good anymore.
Then probably Lego Star Wars, the complete saga. Maybe.
Yeah, and episode Revenge of the Sith, that was a good game.
Revenge of the Sith was a very good game.
That was a very good game. Did you ever play Super Star Wars? Episode 4, basically.
I don't remember playing that one.
That was fucking difficult.
I think I know the one you're talking about. Is it the 2D side scroller?
That was fucking hard. That was really hard. There was Bounty Hunter. I've only played a bit of that. The Pod Racing Racer.
Yeah, that was great.
That was so good.
Do you remember the Star Wars arcade game with the little joystick? And you'd sit in the chair and you'd have the big speakers either side, and there were 3 levels. JX, I know you know this one. You have the attack on the first Death Star. You have the AT-AT walkers, and you have the speeder chase. Each level had 3 little mini levels, and if you passed all of them, you had a boss battle at the end. You had the joystick, and you'd control like a lightsaber, and you'd have to deflect the lightsaber. It's so good. And there's actually a local video game arcade to me that has that in there, and I replayed it, and it was wonderful.
Did you ever play the Connect one? Star Wars Connect?
No, I saw the video.
Stormtrooper dance.
I saw the video.
I've seen the video. I've not played it, but I've seen.
That was great. That was a mini game, I think, wasn't it? On like another game.
I don't know, but you didn't play Jedi Fallen Order, did you?
No,
I liked Jedi Fallen Order. I wasn't as much of a fan of Survivor. Survivor was quite like,
I don't like that Vader gets his ass kicked in that second game.
I've not played tape. I've not finished it. I've not finished it. Do not, because I will finish it at some point, but I haven't played it in a while. Yeah. I was very sort of like, it was average, but I will complete it at some point because I spent 60 quid on that game and I only played like 10 hours of it and got bored. So I will go back and like ages ago when it came out. So I will complete it, but yeah. But Fallen Order I did like. That was a good game. And it fucked with me because, you know, when you in games, when you go to like an open area and you see there's like, and you're in a big room, you're like, boss battle's coming up, boss battle's coming up. Go into this open area, I was like, it's a boss battle.
Why are they giving me so much health?
Yeah.
And ammunition.
All that happens. And I was there. And then I remember, I think I was like, I don't know, I had a drink of something, but I looked and I was like, and I sipped my drink and I was like, all right, we're ready. Walk forward. And I was like, where's the boss? And there was no boss battle. And then you come back there later in the game, I was like, all right, this is where the boss battle is, no boss battle. And I'm like, what the fuck's going on? What's with the big room?
JX says, hated Polis Massa, more like Polis Assa. That's good. I see what you did there.
Funny.
Travis one up to you. Policassa.
That's funny.
There was a section of Polis Massa where you had to be in a vehicle or be a droid to be outside in the vacuum unless you had invincibility on. I honestly, I don't think I played that level all that much. I know you play it for the story, but it's not a map that I ever played all that much. Maigito was one of my favorite maps. I loved that one. That was really fun one to play.
Endor was good.
Endor was great. I loved Hoth.
Yeah.
Any of the space battles I always loved doing.
Death Star was cool. I'm trying to think.
Never played Mustafar all that much. I thought that was quite a small map.
Jabba's
Palace. That was great.
There was a big thing on it because episode 3 had just come out.
Yeah,
and there was a big thing of we've got episode 3 maps. Yeah, Jabba's Palace was cool
because you could go into the Rancor pit. Couldn't you?
I liked Camino.
Yeah, that was a great one.
I really liked that. That was a good one.
I need to play that game again.
The corridors and stuff in it were wicked. Well, they brought out the remaster, haven't they?
Yeah. So I can plug it in. Got my PlayStation 2. It'll work. JX says Vader's allowed to get his ass kicked if he still ends up winning. He's sort of a unit of measurement for surviving Jedi. He gets really, really beaten up though, which I don't like.
What is like cut up mask again, like in the Obi-Wan series?
Cut up mask.
Okay, that's it. I don't need to know the rest. I just wanted to know if it goes
distressed
that far.
Cape. sparks flying out of his suit. He's like clinging onto the wall and going like.
As I say, I will play it at some point.
Like,
I don't want to know how it happens.
No, I won't tell you how it happens, but I'm just like, it just makes Vader look fucking weak all the time.
The thing about Fallen Order at the end of it, though, you meet Darth Vader.
Yeah, I know.
And it's like a proper, like, you can't do anything, and that was cool.
I wish that chick would have died, you know, when she like charges at him, he just goes, throws her over his shoulder. I wish that would have been the end of that character, because it was brilliant.
Well, that was, as I say, I did like that game, and also the fact is, when you went through, like, every time you met an enemy, you'd unlock them in, like, your enemy profiles, and there was always one at the end, and I was getting to think, I want to unlock them all before I get to the end of the game. I was like, fuck's this last enemy? So I was like, okay, cool, got to it, and it was Darth Vader, and it said, no matter what you do, and I was like, I like that, no matter what you do, you can't do it. I was like, that was brilliant. That was nice.
So I'll just get to those in a second. What would you say is your favorite moment of Return of the Jedi? What was your favorite moment and your least favorite moment?
Least favorite moment is the Force Ghosts. Fucking shit. Because of Hayden Christensen.
Okay, so that the special edition change.
Yeah,
outside of the special edition change.
Even without the special edition change, because I don't like Darth Vader, I don't like him going to the Force. It's just stupid. It doesn't make sense at all. I think that's silly. Because, yes, before that, you could, like before the prequels came about, you could say every Jedi went to a Force. You could, because there was no explanation for it.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't disappear. It just didn't make sense. I just wasn't as big of a fan. Just never really liked it.
Fair.
My favorite though, it's the battle between Darth Vader and Luke. It's the first, as soon as the clash happens, that first, and the Emperor smiles. From there, and then how Luke goes crazy when like he's just hitting him, like that whole battle.
I mean, that's my favorite scene right there. So, oh my god, my least favorite.
You're just not a fan of the Force Ghosts.
I think it's maybe the fact that Leia and Han don't really get much to do in this film. There's not really a character arc. There's not really a compelling story thread with them particularly. They're just kind of along for the ride. They're just part of the group, and that's fine, and that works. You know, they're part of an ensemble, but Luke's really the focus, as he should be. But I think it would have been nice to just have them do more than just try and open a door, and that's basically it. That's basically all they do. You can definitely tell that Harrison Ford's going through the motions with this one. He doesn't seem as invested, and it doesn't feel as urgent or heroic as the stuff that he does in Empire Strikes Back. And I know he wanted to die at the end of Empire Strikes Back, so that would probably be my weakest area of the film, but it doesn't like damage the film for me. And I still, you know, Leia gets plenty to do. She's the one who ultimately takes down Jabba the Hutt and is crucial in their rescue during that whole part. Han does have some great moments in the film that, you know, he gets stuck in. One thing that I never noticed before until this point is they get on the speeder bikes, right? When the scouts get on the bikes and they have to try and stop them from relaying the message or whatever. They travel for a long time on these speeder bikes, and these speeder bikes go fucking fast. They're whizzing through the forest like, you know. And then Luke walks back to where Han is and regroups. I'm like, how long was he walking for? Because he didn't have a speeder bike.
Yeah.
And he walked his ass all the way back. Like, that would have taken fucking days. And he gets back there.
Force, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so.
No, it's force projection.
Or maybe they did the force run that they used once at the beginning.
Force projection. So when he came back, that was actually the force projection. He was just catching up. He was like, we'll leave you with that. And
but then he would have died because he used the force a little bit too hard. So it means he dies.
Yeah, but you know.
I think he did the speedy run from the beginning of Phantom Menace. When they write themselves into a corner and have to get, you know, it's a standoff. Let's go. And they just blast to the side.
I like
and they never use that power ever again.
I like Phantom Menace. Phantom Menace is
good. Let's see. Jay Alexander says the Ewok whistle from Wicket's first scene should have come back. Alert the rebels, the incoming legion. There was another thing that I've always noticed. So I don't know if anyone else has. It's during the speeder bike chase, and there's two moments that I'm confused about. There's a bit where it's a wide shot and the speeder bikes move from camera left to camera right, whizzing through the forest, and you just hear like a little trumpet fanfare, a little horn fanfare go like as they pass. It's really quick, and it's not part of the soundtrack because there isn't really a soundtrack during that scene. It's all just the sound effects in the film. So I don't know if that was the Ewoks going like, holy shit, there's something whizzing past. But you can hear a distinctive like trumpet fanfare. And then Luke is on the speeder, and he just randomly goes like, ah, ah, like he's reacting to something, but nothing's there. Like Leia's just there on a bike, and he goes like, yeah, yeah. It's always been really weird to me.
What are those horns called? Like
bugle? No,
is that what it is?
That's like a little. I guess it just is like a horn of some kind. I don't. That probably is a technical name.
Like the big white. Yeah, Vikings use them.
Yeah,
they used to like drink milk out of them.
That was like a drinking horn, I suppose.
Not milk. I don't know.
Well, it could be.
I don't know, but was it? Is it? I'm thinking the same thing.
It's just called a horn. It's just.
I thought it'd be a cool name for it.
There probably is, like
which we found out Jumunbu. That's the name of their helmets, Viking helmets.
Oh yeah, that's
Jumunbu. Yeah, I'm gonna make that common knowledge. Jumunbu helmets.
Trevor says, I think since most of the characters are together on Endor, there isn't much to cut to. So I think more with Lando and the fleet would have helped. Yeah, definitely. There are a stack of deleted scenes that I would love to have seen in the film, and it's Moff Gideon, I think is his name. I can always never pronounce it properly. But we missed the scene. But the Imperial officer who greets Vader at the beginning of the film, and he's like, I tell you, this station will be operational as planned. He had so much more to do. There was like a whole subplot with him. There's a bit where I think he tries to get past the Red Imperial guards, and they like brandish their spears and like square up to him. So we would have got to have seen more with the Imperial guards, and I think he like talks to Vader as well. I can't remember if he gets force choked. But when I think there was going to be a scene where they say like fire on I don't know if it's like fire on the base or something, and he would be like killing his own troops on the planet. And he's like fingers over the red button, like he knows he's been ordered to do it, but he kind of holds back because he has admiration for his men. I love that. I wish they would have put all of those scenes back in. I wish someone would clean those scenes up and put them back into the film, because I would love to see that.
Who? No, I'm trying to. No, it was. I'm just thinking back to the Family Guy one who played Ben Kenobi as the paedophile, wasn't it?
Oh yeah,
yeah. For some reason, for a second, thought he played the Emperor, but no, he played Ben Kenobi. And then the lightsaber.
No, it's Lois's dad plays the Emperor, doesn't he? I think.
And then he's got the lightsaber. He sees Luke, and he goes.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. So they're kind of like my.
Tormund drank milk from a horn.
He did.
See, I knew it's happened.
Favorite special edition change in this would be the Victory Celebration. Least favorite is Jedi Rocks. Like the cringe was.
I like Jedi Rocks. I actually like Jedi Rocks.
I like the little frog thing playing the harmonica at the beginning.
I like the fact that it feels like they're having a party. Whereas, I know the original wasn't supposed to be some big party or whatever, but I like it. I don't have an issue with it. I'm not saying it's like the best.
You don't have an issue with it?
Really?
When you're watching it and everything's like all old-timey and everything's all practical and everything's cool and a consistent tone, and then you just get this thing going out.
I don't have a big issue with it. It's not the worst.
It fucking is. It's horrendous.
It could be worse. It could be a lot better, but it could be worse.
Since we're at the end now, what would you say are the 3 worst special edition changes across the entire original trilogy?
The Force Ghosts.
Are we going to do these in order? So, like, the worst is number 1 and number 3 is the least worst, if we order them that way?
No, I wasn't going to do it. I was just going to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. 3. Because Force Ghosts will be the worst, I reckon.
Right.
Forever. When you say special edition changes, though, which special edition? Because there's a few they get put in, then they get taken out, like the with Luke's falling. So which we talking? The ones that were left, the ones we watched, or just any changes?
I guess just any changes. I mean, that was for a long while in the film.
Yeah,
it was in the version that I watched growing up as a kid.
I do want to say that because it not taking it back out was a brilliant idea, because that there was just like, but it's supposed to be a planned kind of, he knows what he's doing. The Force Ghosts, 100%, like I said, that's the first one. And my favorite change is the eyebrows. That's actually my favorite change because big old bushy eyebrows, didn't he? Because even without him getting burnt on a thing, it just looked out of place.
Yeah.
I'd say that's what I don't know. I'm trying to think, what's my third one? It's quite. It's hard to think because there's but do you know what? I'm going to go with the Wampa though.
As worse changes?
I'm gonna go with Wampa because I like the seeing less of it.
Wow.
I like seeing less of it, so I will say the Wampa.
I'm gonna say my top 3. Jedi Rocks is in there easily. That's one of the 3.
That might be my second favorite. No,
Greedo shooting first, or at the same time, or any variation.
Actually, that's a good point. How? But then again, the only reason I didn't think about this time is because remember how we said I was like, I feel like they've edited again. It looks a bit better.
I think it just ruins Han's character.
It does, but I think that's why, because I remember this time not being as bad as I remembered. I think that's why it didn't come into my head. But yeah, actually, I'm going to replace the Wampa with that.
So I'd have that, and then it's probably going to be the Jabba scene from A New Hope as well. It's a toss-up between that and the crazy Obi-Wan Kenobi scaring the sand people off sound, like that. I hate that as well. So that's
very kid-friendly, that, isn't it?
That's an honourable mention because that really does fucking kill it for me. But it's the Jabba the Hutt scene. It's just
What do you think he should still be a wizard?
Yeah. Oh wow! Travis says the radio version has a cameo from Mara Jade during the palace scene. I didn't know that. And he's referring to the cockroach guy. And there's a part where I swear that cockroach guy sings "Chicken Pot Pie."
Yeah,
I know exactly the moment you're talking about. He's like "Udo wado the chicken pot pie." Yeah, I know exactly the part that you're talking about. Yeah. Trade of All Jack says, Return of the Jedi, my favorite movie of the franchise. See, thank you. 2 other people have said this. I'm not alone in this.
Well,
good taste.
It's not. It's the worst. The original trilogy.
They know what's up.
No,
I don't get when people just like shit on this movie. I'm like,
it's because it has such a good scene. They keep pulling us away from it by going to little teddy bears. I'm like, can you stop?
Stop enjoying the Ewoks, motherfucker. The Ewoks are cool.
I don't hate them, but you take us away from what we like.
I like the bit where C-3PO relays the story to them all. Do you remember the scene in this where 2 Ewoks, I swear to God, speak English? It's the bit where C-3PO sits up and they all go like, whoa. And it cuts to 2 Ewoks and one goes like, that guy's wise, long and short. But it doesn't sound like the, like, it doesn't sound like that. They're not speaking proper Ewok. It sounds like they speak basic. Does anyone know which scene I'm talking about?
But they go, they're onto us.
Yeah.
They should have done that. But yeah, I don't know. No, I can't think. No.
Travis says, worse for me. Vader saying no. Yeah, that's difficult to disagree with. Luke's scream on Cloud City. Yeah, the Great Dragon scream. Favorite. Hayden at the end. Ooh, okay.
Why?
The new musical numbers. Biggs reuniting with Luke. Okay, let's do 3 favorite special edition changes.
Eyebrows.
I will echo the new musical numbers. So specifically Victory Celebration, but all of the new ones that are added in, apart from Jedi Rocks. Biggs reuniting with Luke. Actually, let's do one from each movie. Biggs reuniting with Luke in the first. I'm kind of inclined to say the Wampa, in all honesty, in Empire Strikes Back. I do really like that. And then Victory Celebration in Return of the Jedi for me.
It sounds little, but then again, Empire Strikes Back has the littlest. Cloud City's changes. That's my favorite.
Yeah, that's nice
because
the aesthetics of it are a lot better.
It makes it's a world rather than just corridors.
Mm.
Return of the Jedi would have to be eyebrows again. I like minimalistic things like that. And it just looks so much better. In Episode 4, the reuniting with Biggs is, that's the thing is, imagine we got the original with all the cutout scenes. How do you reckon the pacing would cope?
For this film or just all of them in general?
No, for Episode 4 with Biggs.
With Biggs. See, I really defend those scenes. I would actually unironically love to see those within the film. I think it's difficult because I'm so used to the film that we've got and as is. But I think as an experiment, I would love to see it in there. I think it'd flesh out Luke's life a little bit more, and certainly the big stuff, which I think is certainly lacking in the theatrical version, and still lacking even in the special edition version a little bit.
I think it could be done well, and do you know what? The place I think it would work the best is if they'd done that, kept it in, and kept in Padme's scene with her parents in Episode 2, because they're very
It's like a slice of life kind of thing.
Yeah,
I suppose,
residential-y
isn't it?
kind of scenes. And I think having that in that would be very sort of, it's slice of her life, a bit of
Yeah.
I think that would have a good contrast, keeping them if they kept them both in.
And we need that Sith line in there
Oh,
in A New
yeah,
Hope
yeah.
as well.
That's-
I want that in there too.
That's one thing, but
This Sith Lord that the Emperor sends or whatever. So yeah, get that in there too.
I think they should put the holiday special on next in cinema.
Are we doing that for Christmas?
I would do that 100%.
Are we doing that for Christmas?
Yeah.
We need that needs to be. Oh, I'm going to have a tipple. I'm going to have a Christmas tipple if we're watching that.
That needs.
We should do the 2 Ewok movies. You know what we should do? You haven't watched the 2D Clone Wars volumes, have you?
No.
The original Cartoon Network. We could do those at some point. I would love to do the Ewok movies because I've never seen them. There's the Droid series, which I don't know. And there's the holiday special. I've seen the holiday special before. I've done a stream on the holiday special before.
It's great. It's amazing.
But I've never watched those Ewok movies. So
holiday special needs doing.
And who knows, watching these
Canon.
Ewok movies could convert you to the Ewoks in this movie.
I don't dislike the Ewoks. They just take me away from what I like. You know, it's like...
But doesn't that make you appreciate the things you like more? You're wanting to get back to that scene. It's like when you watch The Lord of the Rings and you're really invested in the Battle of Helm's Deep and it cuts away to the Ents at the Entmoot and you're like, oh, come on, I want to get through this quickly so I can get back to Helm's Deep.
If I had a kid and I loved my kid and then they threw my guitar out the window, I wouldn't love my kid anymore. That's not how it works.
That's an Eddie Van Halen guitar you've got.
Exactly. So it doesn't make me appreciate it. It makes me just
you can always have another child. You can't get that guitar.
Why would I want to have another child? I've had one. That's it. That's enough. Why would I want to do that? Like, you know, they broke my guitar. My only experience with children is negative. Why would I want to have another one?
Yeah.
Like, you know.
True.
So point about Ewoks is they take away from what I like, and it doesn't make me appreciate it more because it just makes me every time, like, it's not the worst. It just makes me every single time it goes to it thinking, cool, awesome. And then the space battle's really good, but it makes me, then it goes back to the space battle and me being like, yeah, okay, we got to see, I want to go back to that. Like, it makes me de-appreciate the space battle because if it just went between, cool, but then it goes back to Ewoks, I'm like, yeah, but now we've got a space battle. So, okay, so I can get on with it. Like, it just, that's what I think. And that's why episode 6 is not as high up as the others for me. Gotta
love some Admiral Akbar and Nien Nunb as well. Love that guy. It's like, like that guy.
He what fish does he remind me of? He doesn't remind me of a prawn. He reminds me of
what, Admiral Akbar?
Yeah, reminds me of I don't know, what fish does he remind me of? Kind of looks a bit like tuna, like a tuna steak, doesn't he? When you put it on when you fry it, yeah.
I never noticed Admiral Akbar's voice in this. He does sound what I expect a fish out of water would sound like. In between every sentence, he goes like a really like strained breathing kind of sound. It's like, we must attack the second Death Star. He does like this annoying like mouth breathing thing. I never noticed that before until today. JX says McClunky. Yeah. McClunky. If you're going to keep editing that scene every single time you do a special edition, fuck it. And I honestly think McClunky is the last, George Lucas's last contribution to Star Wars as we know it, I think, was McClunky, and I like it. I quote it all the time. So again, George Lucas, sometimes he has shit decisions, but they are.
So you quote that whole, that name no longer has any meaning to me.
Yeah. Oh, I do. Yeah, I do quote that a lot, don't I?
That's the one.
That name no longer has any meaning. Yeah, I can remember at least 5 instances I've used that gif
in the past hour.
Yeah. Jake says pros of this movie: ILM and John Williams are at their best so far.
John Williams are getting old.
You fucking shut your face. Shut your face right now. We're not jinxing anymore. Cons: poor direction, which leads to poor performances and uninspired editing. I don't know, I feel like the editing's fine. I don't have a problem with the editing. I think the direction's pretty good. Some of the performances, I think that Carrie Fisher, well, she was probably smacked up to her tits on cocaine, wasn't she? But Harrison Ford, you can definitely feel is just sort of, when he's surrounded by Ewoks humping his leg, he just really doesn't want to be there. And he doesn't seem like he's got the same swagger or drive as he has before. He gets some funny lines. I like the fly casual line. That's funny. But
his best performance is definitely in 5.
Yes. Oh God, yeah.
He does though come across as a whiny teenager at times in 5 as well, in the sense of like the way he's kind of pandering over Leia even. Not all the time. Like he does come across well, but some of the lines he says I'm there just thinking, if you were 11, I'd understand, mate. Like, but it's, but I guess that's the whole thing, isn't it? It's like a schoolboy kind of. It's supposed to have that level, and it's comedic as well. So it's not bad, but just every now and then a couple of things he says in this, I can't remember exactly, but like there's a couple of things
In
he
this
says, I'm
one,
like,
yeah.
Oh yeah, like he says, well, I'll leave you guys too. Like, oh, I understand. Oh, it's there just like, if you were a schoolboy, that's how you would act.
Yeah.
And by this point, you've already been with her. It was, and then it reminded me back to a couple of things he said. I was like, sometimes he's a bit of a child.
I don't get that in 5, but yeah, in this one where Luke goes outside and talks to Leia.
It's like, when he goes, so it's when they're in Hoth and he's going off and he's, I can't remember what he says, but where he's like, oh, I'll just leave then. And it's like that. It's like, oh, mate, don't milk it. Yeah. Like sometimes, but I get it. He's got that kind of childish act to his kid. I get it. It's just sometimes with what he says in this, it's like, you're a twat.
Yeah.
Like sometimes.
But in this one, you have the scene where Leia talks to Luke outside. He goes like, could you tell Luke? Is that who you could tell?
Yeah, and it's very... And that going with it sometimes is just like... Okay.
And at the end, when he's like, okay, when Luke comes back, I won't get in the way.
Yeah, it's very like, man up, mate.
And then the look of horror on his face when she says he's my brother, and she starts like kissing and hugging him, and he's like, his mind plays back all the kissing scenes from the previous 2 movies. And he's horrified. Travis says, well, the Jabba scene in episode 4 is unneeded. It's worth to hear Han call Jabba a wonderful human being. Yeah, I do like that. Putting CGI over a human makes the joke funnier. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's good. The first hour of the radio drama for episode 4 is Luke's life on Tatooine, and Mark Hamill returns as the voice. It's fantastic. I really need to listen to those. Actually, I've heard some clips from it. And it really does seem like it fleshes out some of the scenes that, we always say that Luke doesn't spend much time mourning the loss of Obi-Wan or talking about Leia mourning the loss of her planet or anything, but it really goes into that more. Trade of All Jacks. What I love about Return of the Jedi is the many alien puppetry they made. Yeah, you got Jabba, the Rancor, Ewoks, Admiral Akbar, actually, I think, wasn't it? Admiral. The other aliens in Jabba's palace. It was so stunning to see as a kid. Yeah, and loads of those background aliens in Jabba's palace as well. I remember, I think the character's called Eph-Ant-Mon, and it was probably one of the rarest figures that I ever got. It was the Attack of the Clones boxes, the blue boxes that you got. And this really heavy, chunky figure. I remember going to Blackpool, and there was like a Doctor Who museum there, and they had, for some reason, they had like other sci-fi figures, and they had Star Wars figures to buy. And I saw this Ant-Man one, and I was like, I don't have that one, and that's super rare. And I think there was a sticker on it which said it was like one of the rarest in the set. I was like, I need it. So I got it. Blackpool was always the place because there was a bunch of collectible shops there that sold loads of really obscure figures and hard to come by Star Wars figures. So that's where I got most of them from.
How much did Harrison Ford get paid for episode 7?
Let's have a look. How much did Harrison Ford get paid for Force Awakens? $15 million. And an additional $10 million based on the film's box office. Well,
because he got a percentage of it, as I know that. So
yeah, fuck me, that made over $2 billion. He made a lot of money from that.
Yeah. So, but imagine he had just said no to coming back. What would they have done? Imagine he just said no, don't give a shit. What would they have done? Would it have not happened? So technically, is he the reason it happened?
They would have still made it. They would have just said, "Oh, he died in between movies or something." One less male figure to write in there, right? So. Yeah, makes me sad. Travis says, there is some weird monotone dialogue in Return of the Jedi, especially from Carrie Fisher. Run away, far away. If Vader can sense your presence, then leave this place.
What happened to her voice in real life? Was it all the drugs?
Probably all the drugs and alcohol she was on.
Remember when she was fat?
I don't remember her being fat.
Yeah, there was a time she was fat. There was a time she was fat.
No, I don't remember her being fat.
She had short red hair. And she was fat. I am thinking of the same woman.
Travis says, I will say the dumbest line in the movie, aim for the strongest power source. It should be the power generator. The strongest power source is the thing making the power. You don't say. I've never even thought of that before. Aim for the strongest power source. It should be the power gen. That's dumb. Yeah, oh my god, you're so right. Next time I watch it, I'm going to be listening out for that. That's amazing. There's a badass moment at the end of the radio version where Palpatine says to Vader, "Put me down, I am your master." To which Vader says, "Darth Vader's master, not Anakin Skywalker's." I don't know. I think you just imagine the Emperor just there, still shooting the lightning out of his fingers.
It's a cool line. It's a good thought, but yeah, it's very longed out. It's like, okay, it just needs to be much quicker. But it's a good thought, that line. To be fair, that's actually quite all right. Next is Bolt. Next is Bolt.
Oh, in terms of the Disney ones?
If there's reviews, yeah. Bolt.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Are we rounding off? Are we rounding it off there?
No, I'm just saying.
Circling it off.
That's what I just thought for some reason.
I was trying to think, because I don't know when I'm going to get a chance to talk about Return of the Jedi again on this channel. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I can think of.
Do you remember when it was Revenge of the Jedi? And
the red poster.
Yeah, and Mark Hamill was talking about it whilst holding a rabbit.
I don't remember him holding a rabbit. Yeah. I remember the poster.
I watched the interview with him and Carrie Fisher each holding a rabbit, stroking a rabbit, and they were talking about being Revenge of the Jedi. And the original idea was they went back to Luke was 5 or 6 years old in Episode 3. Was the original idea, apparently. I don't know if it's the original idea or maybe it's Mark Hamill thinking that was the idea, but they were talking about that.
Did they change the title to Return of the Jedi really late in the game?
Yeah. I think George Lucas's reason was it was the whole like, well, Jedi wouldn't get revenge. He just thought it was a bit strong of a word for Jedi, which makes sense. And well, yeah, obviously it makes perfect sense. But also, what were they called? Revenge of the Sith, Return of the Sith.
That checks out.
Yeah, it does. But imagine that, Return of the Sith and Revenge of the Jedi.
It's like that thing where you reverse the titles. All the titles are interchangeable.
That's true. I did like that. I can't remember I can't remember what they all were, but Phantom Menace was Episode 9, wasn't it? I remember that because it was
The Rise of Skywalker. Yeah.
Rise of Skywalker was what, Episode 1? I can't remember them now, but yeah, that was.
Wasn't Return of the Jedi the Last Jedi? Because it says, "When gone am I, the last of the Jedi, will you be?"
Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember what they all were, but yeah, it was quite good. I did like that.
I think A New Hope was The Force Awakens, I want to say, but
yeah, that it did make sense. It was cool.
In closing, this is my favorite Star Wars movie still. It's one that I'll probably, out of all of them, I'll throw on. If I'm going to watch a Star Wars movie, I'll always throw this one on. It does have its shortcomings. If someone says I hate this movie, I don't quite get the hate for it. It's like when people say they hate Temple of Doom and they're like vehemently against it. I'm like, it's fucking brilliant.
Last Crusade's way worse.
Shush. But I absolutely adore Return of the Jedi, and watching it again, and even with like the sequel trilogy and whatnot, and we just wipe it from existence. This feels like the definitive ending, which of course it was. It was, and it forever and always will be to me.
What do you think happened afterwards? In the sense of, forget the extended universe, forget Episode 7, 8, and 9. What would you say happened afterwards?
Luke trained Leia, and they reformed the Jedi Order.
How big do you think it got? Like, actually, they reformed it, or just?
Yeah, I think they would have had to start looking for people who are Force sensitive, or to train people up. But so there's got to be people out there in the galaxy. I do think that Han and Leia would have had children. I know that's kind of going into the expanded universe, but I think that's just what would have happened. Luke obviously has children as well in the expanded universe, so I don't think at this point George Lucas had gone down the route of all Jedi are like sexless monks who are not allowed to have feelings or anything like that.
To be fair, when Obi-Wan does say bury your feelings, so I don't think Luke would have had kids. I reckon he would have been quite he would have took to making the Jedi.
Right.
Like, that's what he would have taken to. Not because he became a sexless monk, but because that's what he took to, and he always buried his feelings down, and just, he knew what was right, and he wanted people to express that. I don't know how far it would have gone. Like, when I say he doesn't have kids, like, but I don't think he would have, because I think that's where his mindset would have been. Because when he comes in, you see how he wanted to be a Jedi. He was quite sort of, because realistically, he was a kid that thought, this would be cool, wouldn't it? Like, he did think that. And when he come up to in Episode 6, and he was like, I'm Luke Skywalker, Jedi Knight. He was very quick to take that mantle, because he was like, I want to be a Jedi. He was like any kid, I want to be a Jedi. And that's what he wanted to. So I think he would have been like, I'm going to teach people to do this. And he knew what it was. So I don't I don't think he would have had kids, especially not for a while. He would have. That's where his focus would have gone.
And I think, you know, you look at this and the special edition ending, and everyone's celebrating across the galaxy. The Death Star's been destroyed. But when you think about it, the Empire wouldn't have just disappeared. They have integrated themselves into the politics of the systems and everything. So that doesn't change overnight. I think there would have had to have been some radical changes there.
Yeah, this is where I think as well, because then it would have become quite political, and Jedis would be the protectors of peace.
Yeah.
And it would have slowly dissolved, and the galaxy would slowly become like, because everyone would kind of, Luke would become a symbol. Mm-hmm. Everyone would kind of take that kind of peaceful symbol, and anyone that was against it, it just slowly got phased out.
Yeah.
I think something like that would happen.
And it is difficult to divorce some of that expanded universe from my mind, because I do think a lot of it is really good where it goes.
The thing about it is as well, is it would have, you know, it would have been a cool sort of like, but it would have been so shallow, I don't know if that's the right word, but so low key in the sense of it would have just phased out, you know, he would have symbol of peace that's like, it doesn't warrant a movie. It wouldn't have been an entertaining movie. It would just slowly, the world would just be peaceful, you know.
Oh, this is a good question. Travis says, what is your favorite original trilogy scene added in the expanded universe in a book, comic book, so on? For me, it's Vader picking up 3PO's head and remembering him. What is your favorite original trilogy scene added in the expanded universe?
I've never seen expanded universe, to be fair.
Yeah, I haven't. What is your favorite original trilogy scene added in the expanded universe book? I'm actually not sure. I don't think I've read a whole bunch. I started to read the Thrawn trilogy, but never got that far into it. I read Star Wars Infinities, which I know isn't technically canon, even in the old expanded universe. I'm reading through the Plagueis book at the moment. There's been a few key scenes in there which have been fun, but it's pretty slow going at the moment. He's just met Palpatine. That's where I'm at the moment in Theed. So yeah, I don't know if I can really answer that question. I need to read and explore a lot more of it. Jakes has the titles. Episode 1 was Rise of Skywalker. Episode 2 was Revenge of the Sith. 3 is Attack of the Clones. Oh, that makes sense. Yeah. Of course it does. Yeah, that's right. 4 is Return of the Jedi. 5 is The Force Awakens. 6 is The Last Jedi. 7 is The Empire Strikes Back. It's not really it essentially is The Empire, isn't it? It's the First Order. 8 is A New Hope, and 9 is The Phantom Menace.
Yeah, I can see those. I kind of see that with The Empire Strikes Back in the sense because they were what was left of the Empire, but yeah, too good of a name to go be attached to episode 7, isn't it?
JX Editor says the Jedi were always sexless monks. It's rooted in Joseph Campbell's Hero with 1,000 Faces. Yeah.
Isn't it weird how also it was in episode 8 how you know, Yoda was a very strict Jedi and then he burns all the books.
Yeah.
It was a bit weird.
Although he doesn't, because Rey steals them away and she's in possession of them. She actually got them out of the tree, so Yoda knew that Luke was going to burn nothing down. He thought the sacred Jedi texts were in the tree, but
I blocked a lot of that movie out.
Yeah, for good reason. Travis says, I could see Han and Leia leaving the rebellion and starting a life on Endor or Kashyyyk. Han giving the ship back to Lando.
Endor's a moon.
It is.
You don't live on a moon.
The forest moon of Endor. Yeah.
Don't go living on moons. That's my bit of advice.
Saying it's the most. Yeah, I could see that. Didn't they get married on Endor? I think didn't they have their weddings ceremony on Endor? I think.
Oh, isn't that a nice place to get married on a moon?
Oh,
a moon wedding.
But yeah, I think we'll probably round off there because it's pretty late now at this point, and yeah, I think we'll round off there. So we're all Star Wars out now, I'm afraid, guys. You won't see reviews.
Was Yoda a strict Jedi the biggest critic? I think he was a strict Jedi because, yeah, I get that, but he was very sort of the strict kind of, you know, he was the one that did the hot, like, you know, it was anger, you know, fearless anger, Angley's hate, and it was that whole sort of so burning the books. I don't know, it just seemed a bit weird. But then again, it was episode 8, doesn't count.
Yeah,
you know.
It's just contrarian fucking meta antagonistic bullshit that it is.
Next is Bolt.
Yeah. So no more Star Wars reviews. You will not see reviews for episode 7, 8, or 9.
From
at
anyone
least
else in the world.
Not for a long while on this channel, if I do them at all. I'm not even going to give them the time of day. They just don't exist. I'm quite happy leaving the saga here. 1 through 6 were the films that I wanted to watch at the cinema on the big screen, and I have had that chance now. I'm really glad to say that I've now watched all of them on the big screen. I'm not ruling out other Star Wars videos in the future at some point. We're going to take a bit of a break, though, because we've been hitting the streams quite hard recently, and we still have our Disney ones, and we'll sprinkle a few more in there. Penguin is going to be coming out. Well, we'll probably cap that off when the series is finished, so we'll be having reviews on that. But we'll take a bit of a break, and then if people really want to see us talk more Star Wars or watch some new stuff, as I said, it could be the Ewok movies, it could be the holiday special, it could be anything. You can watch anything as long as it's not Disney Star Wars, please. Please, no Disney Star Wars. I'll be joined with JX as well when Skeleton Crew's out. I haven't asked him to join me on those just yet, but I'm hopefully, JX, you'll say yes, so you can join me on those. We'll have reviews for that. But this has been nice, going back to these 6 films and watching them again. So real quick, Travis says, what is one story / character in the sequels that feels like a good progression from these films? None of them.
None.
Actually, I'm not even being facetious there. Absolutely fucking none of them.
None.
3PO has some fun moments in episode 9.
You said it again.
3PO.
Yeah, you said it funny again.
No, that would be 3PO.
Yeah, I honestly thought that time you said it on purpose because you did say it funny.
Did I say it funny?
Yeah, you did.
I thought I said 3PO.
No, you said 3PO. And I went, that's funny.
Oh. He has some funny moments in 9, but that film's...
But that's just C3PO. He is funny. Like, he is funny.
Yeah.
That's just him.
But honestly, I don't think any character gets a good progression in any of those films. That's why we don't talk about them.
I think Kylo Ren has a good progression because he dies.
Yeah.
That's a good way to progress the character.
He dies and then he doesn't die, but then he dies again at the end.
No, I think they're fucking shit.
Yeah, didn't happen.
Adam Driver's a shit person.
Didn't happen. Right. Thank you, everyone who's tuned in, commented along, and helped us talk about Return of the Jedi. This has been an absolute pleasure. If you are discovering this video after the fact, please do let us know your thoughts on Return of the Jedi and indeed the entire Star Wars saga as a whole. Anything you want, I always try and get to your comments as much as I can. And please do consider subscribing to the channel for more movie reviews, discussions, and live streams. As you mentioned, our next live stream we'll be doing together is on Monday next week. We'll be talking about, it's under the Star Wars box sets, can't be bothered to get it. Bolt, the next Disney film in our 100 Years of Wonder animated classics. Next week, I think, will be a year since we started it. Isn't that insane?
Will it?
Because we started Snow White on October 18th. I think October 16th. It was the 100th anniversary of the studios, and that's been a year. Isn't that mental? Think about that? It is. Yeah, I told you it would go quick. We've almost finished it.
That was a good one.
When we did Snow White, that was a year ago.
That was a good movie, and now they're doing a remake.
Yeah, I know. We're living in dark
with
times.
A girl that's not white.
No, I know.
And she's come up with a new reason why she was called Snow White.
And there's not 7 dwarves in there.
No, there's 7 magical creatures. And
you got Gal Gadot, who's jealous of Snow White's looks, despite the fact that Gal Gadot's one of the most beautiful women in the history of the world, probably.
Yeah.
But what was I going to say? Yeah, Disney reviews. We've got those coming out Monday. I will be joined with Everything in Middle Earth. I don't know what day it's going to be. It's either going to be Friday, it's going to be Saturday, or it's going to be Sunday. And we're doing a recap on season 2 of the Rings of Power. Rings of Power news. Unfortunately, the live stream that I did with Everything in Middle Earth has been taken down due to copyright. There was a few clips that were used within the review, within the stream, with no audio, but the visual quality, it got flagged and got taken down. I've tried editing out a few of the scenes, and I've got no joy with it at the moment. So what I need to do is I'm going to do a screen recording of it. The audio might suffer somewhat on the picture quality, but I'm going to do a record the screen of the stream, and then I'm going to try and blur out the affected area. So that's going to take a little bit of editing, probably going to take even more time to upload. So I will get the episode 8 review back up at some point for season 2 of Rings of Power, just so it's completion. But do bear with me on that, and I will endeavor to get that done. But yeah, are you breathing creepily down the microphone?
I was doing a Darth Vader.
Anyway, May the force be with you all, and we'll see you on the next review, guys. Take care. Sorry, shut the fuck up. See you, everyone.